Welcome to Raging Bullets, a DC Comics fan podcast, episode 205. Welcome to Raging Bullets. I'm Sean Whalen, Dr. Norge on the comic forums, and I'm joined as always by my co-host Jim. I'm a-dancin', I'm alive, and we're on episode 205, so said the sensei of the whatnot Segulin, and the Duke of You Know.
How's it going? Hey.
You know, the funny part is I've already heard your spoiler warning, so
Yeah.
which is just as plastic as that opener, so.
All right.
This episode was an interesting one, how it came about. You and I were talking this week about comics and just how much we wanted to talk about comics. And that's really what led to this. There's just so many books that we both want to talk about that we just did an episode where we just started rambling. And we start off with a book that that's near and dear to both of us, The Secret Six, issue number 20. And then we wanted to talk about the War of the Supermen event and the ending of Last Stand of New Krypton. So it was just, we had no idea how long we were going to go. We thought this was going to be a lighter offering, and when you see how that one turned out. We're going to be coming back with our next episode with the wrap-up of C2E2, which was really what was supposed to be airing here, but we're recording that on Tuesday with friend of the show, Ian Levinstein. So we decided to kind of do something fun today to put out for you guys, so you'd have an episode a little bit sooner than that. And then we're going to go into JLA Avengers. So it's kind of cool. Jim, our sponsors for this episode are DCBService.com and InStockTrades.com. At DCBService.com, we're getting ready this week for the new books. They're not even up yet. So this is one of my favorite times of the month because I want to, we've talked about it many times, see what DCB Service is going to be offering us for those pre-order discounts, especially not just single issues where they offer up to 75% off on single issues, but also for those hardcovers, because to me, that's where it's gold. You know, if you want a collected edition of something, a hardcover or a trade, a lot of times those are offered at 40 to 50% off, and it's an insane savings. So I'm really excited to see this month. That's DCBService.com. Over at InStockTrades.com, Jim, Batman the Cult. Now, this is how insane it is. I actually bought from InStockTrades.com from one of our listeners, Keith, actually Manticore from the forums. Keith wanted the showcase Brave and the Bold Batman Team-Ups Volume 3. That was his prize that he chose. So, needless to say, I can't order something from InStockTrades.com without getting up to that 50% discount. So, I already own the Cult, the single issues. I bought the trade.
Oh, nice.
I did. I ended up buying the trade because I'm like, okay, they're giving us that cool discount, and I'd kind of like it all collected anyway. So I've got the original single issues that I bought way back in '89, and now I've got a trade of it. But this is a book that I care about enough that it was worth rebuying for me to have, kind of a neat little collected volume. And the trade's very cool. It's Jim Starlin, Bernie Wrightson. It's the 4-issue Prestige format miniseries from 1989. Regularly $19.99, 47% off, only $10.59. We'll be talking about that in a few weeks. That's one that we'll wrap up with JLA Avengers, and then we'll be heading to this one. But if you haven't read The Cult, do yourself a favor. It's Deacon Blackfire, Batman. Woo, just a good story. It's one of those where, at the time, the Prestige format, when it came out, was something so new. And it was just kind of an interesting way, the glossy paper and those cardstock covers. I just remember, I can't wait to talk about how much this story meant to me at the time, and it still means to me. So that's InStockTrades.com. They also have the Summit City Comic Con. Jim, that's SummitCityComicCon.com, May 22nd. It's on a Saturday. That's going to be a very cool event. We're going to be there, right, Jim? Are you?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
We're going to be taking a little road trip to head out there and see the Summit City Comic Con. So please consider coming out and joining us at the Summit City Comic Con. And want to check out RagingBullets.com. Speaking of listener-produced columns, we have 3 of them going right now. We have Life in the Cutter, the Bat Case book, and actually one of our listeners has just started up, it was the contest winner, the grand prize contest winner, has started up a new column. And I don't have the title of the column yet. We're actually just developing that. But that's something to look forward to coming up to. I know he just said that he just finished the first column, so that'll be up this week. So we got 3 people doing columns on our website, which is very cool to have their voices up there. And the new website's made it a lot easier for me to give people access to their own column if they want to vocalize it. And I like that our site is fan produced, where it's friends of the show and it's got kind of more of that kind of vibe to it. So that's something I always want to keep. And if anybody's interested in doing their own kind of blog on it, let me know, because I think that's really, it's kind of a neat little event. You know, we're linked to so many blogs and forums and things like that on there. And if there's something you want me to link to that I'm not currently linked to on our website, please do that, because I think, let me know, because I want to get that stuff up there. But it's kind of a cool thing with the site, and I'm liking the way it's growing right now. So that's very, very cool. Don't forget our voicemail line, 1-440-388-4434, or Dr. Norge on Skype. Voicemails will be returning on our next episode, along with C2E2 interviews. So that'll be back on our next show. Jim, what kind of a podcast are we?
The Raging Bullets is a DC show. We go in depth into the books, you know, with the plot lines and story twists, whatnot, and of course, what-ish. But if I keep on a-going, Sean's gonna say, I'm gonna edit this out, Jim. You know I'm gonna edit this out. And the Raging Bullets is a spoiler show. We go in depth into the books, you know. So if you haven't read them, come back later so you can enjoy the show. We want you to enjoy our show.
Are you done? I didn't.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, 'cause I can take out the earplugs now.
My little tribute to Cats in the Cradle.
Wow.
Which, of course, is the title for the Secret Six series going on.
You're comfortable calling that a tribute. You actually used the word tribute, and you're
Are
comfortable
you
with
kidding? That was an awesome tribute, I think.
it. To who?
Well, hey, it was awesome for me. How about that?
That's a good thing, yes, as long as you're happy.
Now I can get out of here.
Jim, our first chat is going to be of Secret Six number 20. Actually, I'm going to laugh and go back and say, your spoiler warning was actually really good. That was one of the better ones.
Dude, man, as soon as I saw Cats in the Cradle was the name of the story arc,
right.
I was like, oh my god, I gotta do something off of Cats in the Cradle.
Well, I loved it. This wasn't actually on the recording, but you started telling me that you had multiple verses and you had to cut it down.
Yeah. Well, Cats in the Cradle actually is a pretty cool song. I've always liked it, so I knew it going into writing this, which is always easier if I know the actual words. But I had there's like the four main verses, and then with the hook that keeps going back and over again. I had stuff for all four verses going on about stuff about Raging Bullets and whatnot. So in DC, and I threw some of the stuff from Secret Six in there as well. So I had fun with it. But
are we ever going to get the full version? Do you have the full version?
Not really. I don't have the full version finalized. The way it is I had a rough sketch of what I would do each stanza, and then as I was looking at it, I said, this is going to be way too long. I'm not going to do this. I'm just doing the opening and the main hook.
Like a part of me was thinking, geez, we should close the show with the full thing. But again, apparently we can't do that. It's lost into
we can't do that. Sorry.
It's very
Maybe
funny.
It'll be out there on my album one day that I produce.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's
that
funny.
people are clamoring for.
Yeah, okay. They can keep on clamoring.
Hey, the School for the Deaf love it.
There you go. Well, at least you have an audience.
Exactly.
Secret Six number 20. I really wanted to talk about this issue. It's funny how you can read a series for 20 issues and then hit one that all of a sudden becomes your favorite after 20 issues. This has been my favorite book every month in, month out, consistently. And that's funny with all this, because I think the product DC's producing right now is pretty darn stellar. I have a hard time each month deciding which book to read first. But Secret Six for me is that book that I just clamor to right away. I can't help but read Secret Six. And that's a testament to the whole creative team. You know what I think has started to happen for me too? Jim Calafiore took over as the artist, and it's finally starting to click for me. I think this whole creative team is just kind of gelled together now. I'm used to him on the book because I'm a Nicola Scott junkie, and I love her artwork. Jim Calafiore now, it's starting to work. It's I'm starting to really get the vibe of him as the Secret Six artist, and I think it doesn't hurt that the colorist is the same still on the book at this point. And that's a testament to the mood and atmosphere that a colorist sets. But this is really a creative team that's grabbing me again. This is part 2 of the 4-part Fear of a World to Come, the Cats in the Cradle storyline. And we see Blakey. We had a cliffhanger last issue where it was his son's been captured by the enemy. And normally, this is something you hold over the head of the villain or the hero, usually in the story. And they're willing to cross certain lines that they wouldn't normally cross in order to do that. And that's true to a certain extent here, except he totally behaves in a way that's completely unexpected. I love in this opening splash, you see, and this is a great testament to the artwork too, you see the six, the reflection of them in the phone, looking on, trying to figure out what's going on. I love that you can see their reaction to the whole situation. You see it on Catman's face. You see the smug look of the old man in the background.
Yeah.
It's a great opening piece that sets a lot of mood and tone right from the get-go. Your infant son is dead, Mr. Blake. It's important that you understand that. And I love that because the mood of the visual image so matches the dialogue here. And that's just great. And the color tones chosen, I think, were just plain brilliant.
Yeah, this dude, I tell you, this opening, this series, even that opening page, the one thing that always gets me on artwork is like the eyes and the intensity in the eyes. And Blake's eyes are just, he's got that look like someone's about to die. And that you talked about the smug look on the old guy and the villain there. I was just like, oh my God, he is so dead. He doesn't realize how dead he is, no matter what happens. And I was just like, this is just a really just outstanding story. And you said how it's hard. It's funny that after 20 issues, you can have a favorite. You know, every so often I'm like, okay, this is my favorite Secret Six moment. No, This is my favorite. I tell you, we got right in here has my new favorite Secret Six moment that I'm like, how this is like, wow. After reading it, I put it down. I was like, oh my God, this is just amazing. This book, I was just like, I was giddy reading this going, oh God, people are going to, I was just thinking of the carnage that's going to happen in this story arc. And I was just like, wow.
It's very cinematic with the panels with Catman. As you see his eyes, you know, you shift to his eyes and you get to see the expression of rage growing further and further. As this smug guy, and you could, you know, Catman could tell, and you could tell visually that he could tell that this guy was really getting a perverse pleasure out of dangling the kid over the ledge of the building. He knew this was actually happening. And his team on the other end has absolutely no idea. They're trying to read his facial expression, and to see the shot of the team again trying to puzzle out the situation. Jeanette needing to know what's happening. And this is a group that, because of their relationships, yes, they have reasons to, in certain situations, trust each other, but that trust, we've talked about it before, is always going to be tentative. These are villains. They do understand that. And, you know, Deadshot, even at this point, don't know. It ain't no social call, I don't think. And they're trying to analyze, like, what's going to happen here? What are we going to have to do? You know, are we going to side with him? Is he going to side with us? They're right now analyzing the situation as far as how are they going to have to react here. And that's interesting because I don't think with the Justice League, if this was them, they would be immediately concerned for the well-being of their teammate. Like, okay, there's an emotional response he's getting here. Why is that emotional response, and what can I do to help him? At this point, I think they're trying to figure out, how am I going to have to react to this from a personal standpoint, not a I'm worried about him standpoint.
Yeah, I love Deadshot's just reaction to this. We've always talked about how would these two deal with each other if and when the time comes when they got to cross, when they got to throw down with each other. And I just love seeing that look because, Scandal's like, Thomas, and he's like, there ain't no Thomas, sis. Don't anyone move. Don't freaking move. And you just see those two getting ready. He's set, am I going to have to drop my friend? And I love just seeing his reaction to this whole thing start going down because the whole time he knew something was wrong. He knew something's about to happen here. Get ready to fight.
But even before that, there's that critical moment while he's still dangling the child over there. He says that for every one of the members of the Six that you kill, we'll give another year of life to your child. Now, here's the funny part. It's not really that great of an offer because basically what he's saying is we're going to keep the child because they're not going to obviously give him back and then come and try to take him again. They're going to keep the child for that point in time. So what do you do at that point? And that's the interesting part. Is do you take him down? Do you keep going? And I loved how that's a dilemma that Blake would have to be thinking through at that point. Because Blake knows the villain mind. And he knows that in this particular case, the kid's not going to survive.
Yeah, the kid's a dead man no matter what. There's nothing he can do, to save the kid. And that's the big difference between the hero and the villain. The hero will think, well, maybe I can do something to rescue my child. I must try and do something. Blake's right now, and Blake's thinking that because he is, he's a good guy kind of in his core being. There's goodness in him. So he is thinking of trying to play out all the different scenarios, in his head. What if I take down the team? What if I get a couple of them killed? Will that buy me enough time to pick up the kid? Will I be able to rescue the kid? What's going on? And he's thinking it through his head right now. And you can see him when he's like eyeballing just everybody. They had that great full page spread that has him kind of in, fighting stance mode. Everyone just staring down, and they're just looking at him saying, okay, what's going to happen here? What's going on now? So
wait, there's a subtle
throwing
moment.
It around.
There's a subtle moment here before then that I really want to talk about. This moment with Scandal and Jeanette.
Oh, yeah.
With the two hands. Yeah. Because to me, this was it was such a well laid out moment. Because you see Scandal just reach over with her hand. She knows at that moment that if she doesn't do something, Jeanette is going to react. She's going to initiate. She is going to attack beforehand. And that's what I totally got out of that. Or at least she's assuming that Jeanette will escalate this situation. And she's trying to keep it as under control as possible. It was really interesting to see that, because you see it in Jeanette's face in that page you're talking about, where you see each member of the six. And I love Black Alice's look, because you see, she's got this quirky little, almost a smirk going there, like, I want to see how this plays out kind of thing going on. So each one's got a different sort of reaction. And of course we get the blank stare of Ragdoll because of his mask. But it's an interesting bit. And Deadshot, this was my favorite part of the issue. We get to see a Deadshot that I don't think would react this way. There's probably a handful of people, maybe, if even that he would react this way with, where he genuinely doesn't know how to react to this. Like, normally, he would be the first one probably shooting, just to be on the safe side. Just, that's how he's survived all this time. In this case right now, he sees Blake in a place that he's probably been in before, many times, where he's had to make these decisions, these hard decisions, and to put himself, he puts it later in the issue, into hell. And in his eyes, Blake isn't there. And it's something that he's trying to protect. There's a friendship that has developed here that I don't know if it'll ever be on the level of what we would call, Hal and Ollie, for example. But we've seen these great buddy issues with the two of them that it's probably as close as either of them's ever going to get to what you would call a true friend. And even that it's a pretty sad existence. But I love that about them because it feels very real. And that's the core of this book, is that I don't know how she does that and keeps that balance, because I think myself, if I was writing this, I would be so tempted to have already taken them to what you would call a true friendship. And I'm not saying I would ever get mad if they ever hit that point, but I love that it's not an easy journey for that friendship either way. And it totally fits their world. I love this Blake moment. And
yeah.
Did you expect him to say no deal?
You know what? Honestly, I didn't. I didn't know what he was going to say, but just that really, and that was one of those things. It's now my line of the year, my line of the series. No deal. Go ahead and drop them. I was like, oh my God. You think about that. That is just huge. But then even that's not even the cusp of it. It gets even better. Because as he's going on, the villain is thrown by this. He's like, drop him. I'm going to hang up this phone, but I want you to understand something. Let it sink in, or you'll never get through this. I know the sound of the harbor. I know where you are. I know there are 3 of you. I know the big one has an African accent. I know the other suffers from asthma. And I know you were born in London, but lived most of your life in Australia. I was just like, oh my God. And then this continued. The guy's like, he does your typical villainous boisterous, but won't even let that go through. It's like, no, you'll run, you'll hide, and in the dark, I'll find you. Click. I was like, oh my God. This was the page that I read over multiple times, and every single time I hooped and howled and I cheered. This was just one of those moments where you're like, holy crap, what just happened?
And Scandal, again, and this is where we do see a distinct separation between Scandal and Bane and Deadshot. Because now we got to see that each of the 6, even though they're villains, they have distinct personalities. Scandal, at this point, is trying to keep the family together. She and Thomas do have a good relationship, and she does find a value in him. She doesn't want Bane to escalate this further. I think she's also afraid for Bane at this point, because she knows that Catman Which is interesting because it's Bane, and she's convinced Catman could gut him at that moment. I think she's convinced that he's snapped enough that Catman could do it. And, woo.
Yeah, she still doesn't know what's going on, but she's seen that look in people's eye enough that she knows he's at a place where he could take Bane. He could take them all, probably, and continue on. He's got that mindset that there's nothing that will stop him. And I love seeing that she's trying to calm him down, trying to stop that fighting. And, Deadshot still's like, hey, Tomcat, what's going on here, man? He's still trying to reach his friend, trying to see what's going on, what the deal is.
Dude, somebody shot himself in the head in front of all of them, and they're reacting like it's business as usual. What kind of a world do they live in? I love that.
Oh, God. And they're just like, hey, are we going to get paid? I don't know. Where's this coming? Now what's going on?
My favorite person is always Ragdoll. His little reaction where I don't know how we're getting home either. As I think I hear Thomas stealing our jet, the merry scamp. He loves, like, when just horrible things happen around him. He loves seeing it. To him, that is exciting and interesting. He loves when things get chaotic. And that's an interesting trait with Ragdoll, because he loves seeing the abnormal, the things that just kind of blow your mind. To him, that is the most exciting for him. He must be an interesting person to watch television with, because he probably finds very little that interests him unless he's channel surfing. Because it's got to be just like these quick moments of just chaos and insanity that he's got to see. Either that or he watches something so strange and bizarre religiously that neither of us could.
Yeah.
He's such an interesting guy. It's funny how I would love to see like a Ragdoll miniseries.
Yeah.
To just learn more about him.
Yeah, he wouldn't have to really even do any big adventure. Just look into life, look in the mindset of what is Ragdoll. Just like a one-shot or something that just kind of goes that whole beyond the moment, and get us that little one more step inside the mind of Ragdoll. Granted, I would be terrified to look in there, but it has got to be one of those just amazingly fascinating, bizarre things that I would love it.
Cheshire is having a horrible couple months.
Yeah, she's not doing well.
I think we're obviously setting up with her how she's going to be on this Titans team, this Deathstroke team.
Yeah.
And it's going to be interesting to see. I'm glad to see that character coming back, because I do find her interesting. And she's somebody who over time has just become more and more of another wild card that when she's thrown into stories. But this is going to really set the tone and mood for how her life is drastically changed. Because, even if this child's saved at this point in time, which, do you think the baby's dead?
Actually, I think the baby's still alive.
I do too.
I think they panicked. They didn't know what to do, so they figured, we're going to take the kid, and if he does find us, we'll use the kid, hopefully as a shield to get away from him. They don't realize exactly what's going on in this man's mind. In his mind, the kid is already dead, and he is going to hunt them down and kill them. And he is just going to destroy their being. And if he gets the kid back, great. But if they have to choose between kill me or save your son, he's going to choose kill them. And that is where his mind is right now. Now, when he's actually given the choice, who knows what he'll actually do. So maybe they could buy themselves a minute or an hour or something by like throwing the kid over a ledge and he goes after the kid, but he's still going to hunt them down. They don't realize that they're dead now. There's nowhere on this planet they can hide from this guy.
Now, here's the interesting thing. It's one thing to threaten to kill a baby, or to kill, an infant, a small child.
Yeah.
It's another thing to actually do it. The threat in and of itself is crossing a major line, but then actually crossing the line and doing that, it's like, ugh, I don't think these guys have it in them. I don't think they have the guts. And I don't mean that guts in a respectable sense, like you would admire them or anything like that. I mean in the sense that I think there would be, I know for myself, if I ever was in a position where I had to threaten that, I couldn't imagine ever being in that position or actually taking that as a choice. But I mean, to actually go and then have to take that step and then doing it, I don't think you could do that. There's nothing, first of all, it's unconscionable. I mean, how could you live with yourself after doing that? Even if you're the worst of villains, I just don't get how you could cross that line. And that would be an interesting moral dilemma. That, to me, kidnapping the baby, kidnapping the kid, and saying that he wasn't going to see him again would be a horrible thing to do to a parent, much less to threaten to kill the child. And I don't know. It's an interesting moral dilemma for these villains. And I wonder if Blake deep down knew that all along there was a good possibility the kid wouldn't be killed. Do you think that? Or do you think that he really genuinely believes? Because he does tell Cheshire that the baby's dead. So do you think he really believes that?
Well, I don't know if he believes it, but you got to get in your mindset. He's now in the mindset that the kid is dead, that there's nothing he can do to bring the kid back. That way he only focuses on the hunt. Mm-hmm. And, it's kind of like that. If he allows those notions to enter his mind, it will throw him off his game.
Yeah.
And he knows that, so he's got to think one thing only. The kid is dead. This isn't about a rescue. This is about vengeance. This is about justice, or however you want to word it. This is about payback. This is about finding the people who killed my son and killing them horrifically. And that is where his mindset is, and that's the whole thing behind what he's doing and why he's doing it the way he's doing it. It's, I think, and that for me is really the cool stuff, when you start thinking the psychology beyond what he's doing. Just that, as I said, that I had a holy crud moment when he went through that whole drop him thing, and just seeing how he continues on. This is a completely different person, than we've seen in any of the previous issues. This is the guy who tortured those poachers. If you remember back into the beginning of the series, when we saw what he did to those poachers that killed, those lions, where he blindfolded them and put them all around traps and let them do their thing. And this was that guy. This is the same guy who taught that father how to torture the guy who killed his little girl. It's that same mindset, that, that darkness that's inside him, that's now in control. The quasi-hero aspect of him is now gone. Now, whether that hero is completely gone or only just sidetracked for a while, that remains to be seen.
And Deadshot's trying to protect that.
Yeah, that's the part Deadshot's fighting for. That's the part Scandal's fighting for. And I love seeing them his friends step up, say, "Hey, we got to do this. We got to save him. We got to, do what we can to make sure he doesn't cross a line that he can never cross back over."
And you're right. There is it's funny. I keep wanting to say that there isn't a friendship there, but there is. It's just so interesting in this exploration and this journey to see it kind of organically. I don't think they're comfortable with calling it that. I don't know if they ever will be. It'll be interesting to see how this all plays out, as the series continues on. Because, when you were saying the friend thing, I'm like, because earlier on I was blatantly saying that they'll never have that or anything like that. I don't know that that's fair to say that. It won't look like what I think a friendship is. But I don't know. That's one of the things that I'm really loving about the book and loving about having this kind of set team. Even if one or two members kind of pop in and out or something like that as time goes on, you're still having like set characters that need to kind of stay in the book. And Catman, I think, is definitely one of them. And Deadshot. I mean, these are two. And Scandal. I agree with you 100% with Scandal. I don't know. This whole team of 6 right now, I don't know who I would get rid of.
Yeah, I think... And I don't want to see her go from the team, but I think the only one who, for me, would be expendable would be Black Alice. But she's such a cool character that I don't want to see her leave. But, it's... The only reason why I say she could be expendable is because she hasn't been around the team as long. So I guess maybe that's, makes her more quote-unquote expendable, but she's not, because I really enjoyed the character and what she's doing and what they're doing with her, and just I know the future stuff we're going to get from her, down the line as she, gets quote-unquote comfortable with the team, and just her and her ragdoll interactions are going to be some really creepy, cool, fun stuff. So I can't even say she's expendable, but I guess if I had to pick one, that'd be it.
I don't know which horrible thing to watch. And he's watching what Black Alice is going through with her stomach, and then what's going on with Scandal. Here's an interesting point. Remember back when Deadshot was, on the island, they were watching the slavers and all that stuff, and he was talking about how they needed to stick to the job. They needed to make the money. That was kind of his focus there. Now it's interesting how he's saying, "Lady got a point, big man," when Bane's throwing out that card. Bane's talking about how we've got clients that we have to honor and all that. To hell with the clients, to hell with your word. It's interesting how he's backing her up here. It kind of shows, and I don't think there's anything out of character with it, it shows how he's grown from that experience. How he learned at that point in time that, okay, that wasn't the right route to go. I like the evolution of this character over time.
Oh, definitely. Definitely like that. And it was funny, I was also seeing it as part of some of the stuff we were talking about, the friendship. This isn't just a job. This isn't just, not sticking with a job because of slave trading and all that stuff. This is his friend. This is,
But it was there. Remember, though, it was there. He was going up against his friends there. This is different this time. He's reacting differently this time. And maybe it's because it was so personal to Blake that now he's seeing a personal attack versus a job. There, they were blatantly in the middle of a big job. It wasn't personal in the sense they took it personally.
Right.
They made it personal, but it wasn't a personal attack on them. Now Deadshot's seeing his friend, or whatever you want to call him, going through something that is a personal attack. A personal attack on the kid's son, on the guy's son. And, it's something that he's relating to. And he doesn't want to see him have to cross that line. And it's an interesting distinction. I just thought it was interesting that this time he's reacting differently. And I like that because he's not, just a simple, flat, one-dimensional character. There is a life to him. There is something about him I love that. It's just, to me, it was one line from him and one way he's standing there holding himself, and it just meant something. Now, we get to see a little bit more of Bane and Scandal here, and that they've set up a sort of fantasy relationship. And I don't know, I'm still trying to figure out what it is. Because he seems to be kind of a father figure to her, but is it that simple? Because there is something, there's a weird line they've crossed between the two of them as far as what that relationship is. And they're convinced, everyone else watching is convinced the two of them are going to come to blows, which isn't really the case. She basically says our dream is over. It's almost like a relationship ending. Like everything has changed now in this moment for the two of them. Do you think we're going to find out what has happened between the two of them, what their relationship is, or what it's been? Or do you think that it's always going to be kind of like this mystery?
I think it's always going to be a mystery. It's always going to be that what actually happened, what was, what happened between these two, what was the whole story. I don't think we're going to get the whole picture. We got a strong enough picture that there's, a something between them, and for these two characters, for their type of people who they are, this is all they're ever going to really have.
They both
kind of deal.
They both grew up having parent issues. Strange parent issues and strange childhoods and things like that. With her being the daughter of Vandal Savage and what we saw her go through, and then Bane's own childhood. So it makes sense the two of them would bond the way that they have. I find it so interesting to see that relationship. Part of me wants to see it. This is funny with this book. I give so much elastic to this book, as far as it could stretch any direction that I wanted to. I am so enjoying the ride. Like, when I'm done with an issue, there's so much more that I want to know, but I'm just very content to, follow the story where it's going to go. Whereas other books, I'm like, they better show me this. Like, if there's an intention to show us more of what's going on with the relationship, great. If that sweet ending is what we're going to get out of it and we're left as the reader to kind of, develop that in our minds, I'm content with that too. Which I don't always feel that way. And that's not an insult to other books where I don't. It just seems to be something about the style of this particular book's storytelling that I'm just very contented at the end of these moments to just kind of enjoy the journey. I don't know. I don't know what's driving that.
Yeah, I tell you, what? It's something interesting about this book. I've read this thing probably, this issue, I'd say at least 6 times now. Mm-hmm. And as we're having our little conversation, I have it open in front of me, and I'm looking for the first time I noticed on this page where you have the kiss between where she kisses him on the cheek. At the top panel, there's a painting on the wall, and it's a painting of a severed head. You can actually see the bloody sword right next to it, and if you look closely enough at the head, you can see the hand gripping the hair.
Right. It's the House of Secrets. So it's just a downright creepy, horrific place.
I know. I'm like, wow, they got a painting or a picture or something of a severed head. I'm like, outstanding.
Other things, too, I love that Black Alice is excited at the possibility that Bane might get killed. Like, I think Jeanette's kind of horrified, but she's got this kind of perverse smirk at the whole thing.
Well, she gets off on that kind of weird, freaky-deeky stuff. So,
yeah. It's where
she gets to something fun.
It's where she and Ragdoll, I can see why the two of them wound up together. At least for whatever, they did. Now we go to Italy. And I'm going to be honest with you. In one of my later read-throughs, I started, trying to get the Italian translated. because I wanted to know what was being said. Now, I didn't need to for, like, pasta and cappuccino. I didn't need that. And in a moment, senor, I didn't need any of that. But, as we got further along with him and his girl, I actually did try to get translations, and I'll share them at the time when we get to that point.
Oh, cool.
But it was funny how, like, that tells you how many times I've read this issue, that I got to the point where I'm like, oh, this time would be kind of fun to go through and find out what those two were saying. Try to find out. I used, like, there's Babelfish and then Google Translate and stuff like that. There's a lot of translator sites out there, but I wanted to see, I'm like, okay, what was she... Because you get from the visuals and from the whole setup what was going on, but it'd be fun to hear what the dialogue was, so I tried to do that. Poor Cheshire, making him promise that if the child's dead, you'll make them suffer. And, he gets the information. This is where he finds out about Claudio. Claudio the castrator, who we'll talk a little bit more about that later, in my questions about Claudio. But but he's digging up information to start seeking them down one by one. This is really it's a great revenge plot because it is gripping to follow him, and I'm very much so rooting for Catman at this point. I'm rooting for the kid to be alive, and I'm rooting for Catman to cause a lot of punishment here. And that's good storytelling because it's funny how you can take a book that's totally full of villains and make you root for them.
Yeah. Like
passionately root for them. Like they are heroes in this story. And I am so there. What fun. I remember when I first went Daffy. There's a distinction here, a battle line in this team, though. And it's funny, with Jeanette and Bane, do they fit in the six? You've got 4 people going after Catman. You've got Ragdoll, Black Alice, Deadshot, and Scandal. So here's my question, Jim. Will Jeanette and Bane belong in this team when all is said and done?
That I don't know.
Because looking at that moment right here, it's a pivotal moment. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there. But we got a pivotal moment right here. We're looking at the two of them, and I'm like, I don't know. They're so concerned about the clients. And from a business standpoint, what they're saying makes perfect sense. And, Jeanette going on, I think will be fine. But she, at this moment, she doesn't care about the team at all, any members of the team. There's a relationship with Scandal. That's what brought her to the dance. She had that relationship with Deadshot. I don't know how much of that's still in play, or if, that ship is sort of sailed. Definitely doesn't seem to be as heated a relationship, but we'll see. I mean, we're going to see that journey as it go along. I don't know. I'm going to be curious to see who survives on this team when this is done. Is it going to be the Secret Seven still?
See, that's the thing. Because it was funny when I threw out the initial thing about how Black Alice is the expendable one, and then you see this one scene with just these two who weren't, neither one of them were on the original team or in any original association with the team. They're planning on getting 4 more operatives, and they will be the Secret Six, and who knows what will happen with the other team. And you think about it, when this is all said and done, when Catman's, at whatever place he's at, whether he wants to come back to the Six or not, whether any of these 4 who are leaving want to come back, the 4 people that those two get to replace them, will they want to give up the job? That's going to be an interesting thing, because they're going to get 4 more metahuman operatives. There will be a Secret Six that will be run by Bane. It'll be Bane, Jeanette, and 4 other people. When these 5 that are outside there want to come back, what's going to happen then? And that's something I'm really curious to see what's going to happen after Cats in the Cradle. How is the team going to handle all of them? Who's going to leave? Who's going to stay? Are they going to leave of their own choices, or is it going to be one of those kind of Mad Hatter deals where they don't have a choice and they're thrown off the side of a ledge? I'm really curious to see how that goes.
But I love that. I don't care what direction it goes into. I love that I care to speculate and think about what's going to happen. That's a sign of good literature. When, as you're turning the pages, you want to know more. It's funny how I say that I'm contented, and I am, but yet I still want to know more. I'm just content that this writer, and you know what it is? I think the best way to put it is, it's trust in the writing. I know that the journey's going to take us in that direction. And at this point, not 20 issues in and a miniseries and Villains United and all that, I know, and Secret Six crossover with them. Secret Six has got a lot of story behind them at this point. Yeah. It really does when you look at all those minis. And then the Birds of Prey crossover was clearly, another big epic Secret Six story. So it's great to see this team so developed at this point. These characters, and I'm hoping that if you haven't picked up this book, anybody listening to this is really considering checking out Secret Six, because you could pick up this issue, and even if you haven't been picking up the rest of the series, issue number 20 is just a great ride to jump on, and just keep going from here, because it's an accessible issue, even though it's part 2 of the story. Like this next page where we're talking about Claudio and Elena. I love you, but you are an idiot. Not true. I am really smart. I have conquered your heart. Not true. And I mean, like I said, some of this is loosely translated. And she's like, for the time being. Now, here's the part where they hear a knock at the door. And Elena's like, it's the door. You go. The bed's too warm to get up. Mr. Chivalry, the true ladies' man who says chivalry is dead, you go, Elena. And be discreet. I mean, come on. What a tool. So anyway, the door bursts open, but she's like, I can't help it, meaning I don't know if she means that, she can't help being discreet or whatever she's going to say here. I couldn't get a clear translation on that. But he bursts through the door, and she's like, you can't enter here. You got to leave from my house. And Claudio shows up and goes, you can't. You can't enter here. You've got to exit from my house. Don't you understand? Don't you have any idea of how many men I've castrated? Now, okay, what is this with castration as a threat? Who says, gee, I want to torture someone? I know, castration. Finally, I've been looking for that calling card that just says me, Claudio the castrator. That has a nice ring to it. It just says respect. People will surely want to shake my hand vigorously, knowing what I do for a living. I'll gain tons of friends. No one will laugh at me. I mean, who does this? I mean, there's tons of horrible things you can do to people. What makes you say that?
Dude, think about it, man. That's one of the great ways to torture any guy.
What's great? Wait, dude, what is great about that? Like, dude, seriously.
What is great about that is like
somebody.
Every man's fear.
I understand that. It's every man's fear. I understand that. I know where you're going with this. It's every man's fear. I buy into it. Sure, that's fine. But, dude, I don't want... Even if I hated somebody, I don't want to do that to somebody. I don't want to be involved in that. I think it says something about the character of Claudio that he brags about that. Like, that's cool to him on some level. He does. Like, I don't know.
So,
to me, that makes
in Italian, it does sound a lot cooler. Castrato. Come on, that does sound kind of neat.
No, it doesn't.
I don't know. I think it kind of got to, that whole European language thing, You say anything in the European language, and it can sound kind of neat,
Dude, I'm disturbed for you that you think it sounds neat. I'm disturbed for you.
The one scene that I thought was absolutely hysterical was a little bit earlier when Claudio and his lady friend are being friendly with each other, and you see him just sitting there staring at his watch.
Right.
I was like, right there, that was a cool moment. I was like, oh man, this guy.
Well, and I love that she's calling him an idiot. He's basically bragging about how cool he is.
Yeah.
At that moment. Like, you can't possibly really think this about me. But she does, obviously. It is funny, though, how, like, an idiot like him would wind up with a babe. I think it's true. I do think it's true. The way he carries himself, because she thinks it's that weird relationship thing where she thinks on some level that she is going to be the one to change him.
Yeah, she's special.
Right.
She's into the bad boys, and this guy is the ultimate bad boy because he castrates people, so that's kind of a bad guy.
They're both tools. They really both are, because you see that all the time. It's very real. It's funny how Scandal tracked down Cheshire, and she had to promise Cheshire in order to get any information that she wouldn't try to stop him. So, and I love that she feels at this point that I need to talk to you about this. Why are you here? To Deadshot. What is this? What's in this for you? Maybe it's because he ain't really like us yet. He hasn't been to that place you can't ever come back from. He ain't quite in hell yet, I guess is what I mean. I don't know. Maybe it's too late already. This was a moment for me that I'm just kind of like, whoa, what a powerful moment. And it was Deadshot for me, small bit parts in this, but I loved the character growth for him and how we, not even just character growth, a character definition of him here, where we got to see a little bit more of him and to see why we do rally behind these characters, why they even matter to us. That was just such a great moment. And this is, see, to me, good comics are all about strong character drama. It's serialized storytelling. And if you don't care about following this character every single month, you can put in all the great action you want. there's nothing that's going to distinguish the book. It is the unique nature of the characters that make you want to see the action, that make you want to see the fights. We wouldn't care about seeing Catman in this fight right now if we weren't fully invested in him. It matters now, because we know where he comes from, we know what he stands for. This is not some random attack. This is very different than what we've seen from him before. The Poachers, there's a great example, probably one of the closer examples. This is very different, though, when we saw him against Bronze Tiger. Very different kind of battle we're going to get here. And that's something that I like. I like that distinction.
and the thing I thought was cool, because those moments that you're mentioning with Deadshot were just small little panels overlapping what he's currently doing. And it's currently the fight between Claudio and Catman. Claudio's broke string, he throws the knives, and as Deadshot said, maybe it's already too late. We get that scene where Claudio throws the knives, Catman grabs Elena, and boom, uses her as a shield. 3 knives into her chest, she's now dead. And I thought that, for me, was just this wow moment of using a completely innocent civilian who, granted, she's an accessory after the fact kind of deal, but she had nothing to do with the kidnapping. She's had nothing to do with the killings. Only thing she's guilty of is being an idiot and, dating a killer. So for her to die this way was like, wow, kind of moments, talking about, has he crossed the line now?
I don't think we'd see, at this point in time, it's self-defense. It's her or him.
Well, she wouldn't, he could have, if he would have avoided the knives, she wouldn't have picked up a gun and shot him. She wouldn't have, I don't think she was any threat to Catman.
No, but,
this
but
was
the knives were.
Interrupt you, hate to do that. My sister just walked into my room dressed as a zombie. She was there was a local movie being done about zombies, and my sister is the zombie lawyer. She's got part of her neck just ripped out, and she's got the dead face.
Is she in the movie?
Yeah, she's in the movie. She's an extra in a movie.
Wow, very cool.
There's a movie being filmed in Cleveland.
Is she actually playing a zombie lawyer?
Yes, she's a zombie lawyer.
Wow.
I don't think she had any lines.
Do we know the name of the movie?
What?
Do we know the name of the movie?
I don't think we know the name of the movie yet.
Okay.
Hold on, wait. She's giving me a yes and a nod, and you can talk, Mare.
The film is called The Diary of Ben McCready, and it's a series of web episodes. Find it on Facebook under Diary of Ben McCready.
Wow. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Thanks. Sorry to interrupt.
Oh, no problem.
No, that's kind of a random fact that your sister's going to be in a web movie. That's kind of cool. Yeah. You can interrupt with stuff like that all the time.
I know.
It's certainly better than us coming back saying we had cinnamon rolls, which we've done on previous episodes. This can actually be followed up. Right. Although, in fairness, when we've said we've had cinnamon rolls, people could then be inspired to have cinnamon rolls themselves. So, I don't know. Anyway, back to Elena. I don't know. I guess at that point, I don't think that he's going to feel major remorse over Elena. I don't think he would have in either case, because we've seen him be involved in the death of others before. I don't think that that's going to be a major trauma
I don't
point.
think it's a remorseful thing for him, but it's still that whole question of that he is different than the Six. Yeah, he kills, but he usually only kills when he needs to. It's not a kill for just to kill type deal. And did he really need to kill her? That's the question. As I said, that could be something you could argue either way. Did he cross the line by doing that? Grabbing a female, using her as a shield for the knives is a huge thing, but it
would normally be considered cowardly because she had no defenses. I get where you're going with that.
Yeah, it's not. We always talk about with Catman having kind of like that kind of quasi-heroic side to him.
A moral compass.
It's definitely not the moral compass, that he's, using her as a shield. That's, one thing just showing how much of him is gone and how much of this is just pure death and killing machine. And you see that as he's running up the stairs after him. Yeah. That I tell you, the artwork on this one was another one of those. He's got the arms out, he's got the kind of look on his face, and it's a kind of a oh crap moment.
Am I right? Is Kellic Fiore hitting a home run and Jason Wright on the colors? That whole secret, the drool you see in his mouth, not the drool, it's just he's at this point so gone that he just looks like an animal. He really does. Looks rabid at this point. And it fits the rage that someone would feel at this moment. He is no longer, maybe he don't want any salvation today, That so totally fits that picture of that moment right there. He doesn't care at this point. He really doesn't. We've always seen Catman have remorse, and maybe after this, we'll see him deal with where he went and how comfortable is he going to be with that place. But, wow. The punches, the kick to the leg where he breaks the leg, just to me, that moment is just, whew. But I love that Deadshot says, I don't know why I'm here. Maybe I was just in the mood for a big thing of tortellini. Now, at this moment, Catman with the cape, there actually is a history with the cape. That it was kind of, and I don't know if it's considered in continuity that this cape does grant him 9 lives, but that was something that was, kind of a random thing that, Catman survived different things because his cape was magical and granted him 9 lives. And so basically this whole thing with Claudio being able to touch the cape and the magical properties, I don't know. I love that it's left kind of a mystery. Does the cape really do that or not? He's tortured him so bad because you see, the knives are stabbed into the floor at this point. He actually took the knives out and adjusted them when he practically crucified him to the stairwell.
And here's the thing with that cape thing. I didn't know if that was real or not. I kind of took it as a taunting type deal, a torture technique, break the will to you. When you're torturing somebody, it's not just about physically beating them down. It's about the mental game. It's about breaking them down, who they are. You give them this false sense of hope is what I was kind of thinking he was maybe doing with that.
There was a story with Catman and Catwoman, and we're going way back, where Catwoman almost died. And she lived because she had touched Catman's cape. Okay. And the thing being that she took one of the lives from the cape. But, again, we're going back so far that the question is that even still in canon? Does that count today? My point with this is, I love that Gail Simone played off of something that was from Catman's past. Whether or not it fits still the character now, it was a nice nod for longtime fans. I appreciate stuff like that, where you got something out of it, too, where you could speculate about it in your own way, not having the history with the character. But then I could go back and say, wow, that's kind of cool. She threw this in. I love that. To me, it's good writing research where the character you're working on so well and the character's past that you can pull from things. Morrison does this a lot, too. Where he'll pull in things and use them in a way that thematically gives a nod to the past, but you don't have to be stuck to them, like glue. Mm-hmm. If that makes sense, it's something that gives something to longtime fans and newer readers. It was cool. This whole issue was just, to me, 3 hours. He tortured this guy for 3 hours.
Hey, he promised her that he would take his time with it and he would make him suffer. And that is something right there that's going to get back to the other people, that he took him out first. And he was a very dangerous man, and he not only killed him, they're going to know how long he tortured him. And it was just one of those wow kind of moments. You think about, just start thinking the off script stuff that we didn't see, and knowing what he knows about torturing, knowing what he knows about knives, and just the various dark nature that he's at right now. That's huge. It's like one of those holy crud moments.
He teased him with the cape. So going off of what you said, let's go under your theory that the cape doesn't really do that. Okay, let's go under that. Because I'm with you. I don't know that we know whether or not the cape really works, and I don't know that really matters at the moment. The point is, he said it in a way that he made Claudio believe it. Or at least there was enough hope in Claudio that he was like, maybe this thing will work. I don't know. And Claudio's like literally to the point you can see him with his hand trying to fight. And he's not going to get that hand out of that. Where's he going to get any leverage? He's on his back in a way where he's not going to be able to sit in a position where he could get any kind of leverage to get that hand out. He would need an immense amount of leverage to do that. And I'm talk about the strength of will and determination and all that. I'm a big believer in that in extreme moments, you can bring yourself to do almost anything. But in his position, if you look at how he was crucified with the knives, he has he can't sit up. There is no way to pull himself to sit up, even if he tries. That is really, to me, like Catman put him in a position where there's no way possible he can do what Catman said if you can touch it.
I thought about it, and I was looking at the way the knives are in, and there's a way he could do it.
How?
See, what Claudio's doing is he's trying to pull the knife out of the thing, because that would do the little amount of damage to his hand as possible. Okay. What he has to do is pull his hand straight down and let the knife cut through the rest of his hand.
Oh.
And then he'd be able to reach it. Wow. So that whole thing where I guess you didn't want it bad enough, that's what he would have had to done. He would have had to pull his hand down,
and like it would have completely
just yeah.
Wow. I didn't look at it that way at all. It's funny, you made this even cooler. Because now you've shown me the possibility of how I could do it. This is it's like watching Saw.
I know, out of Saw movies, yeah.
That's really cool. I really like that. And I love that we find out his response to Jade right at the end. I promise, Jade. I promise. Like, it was the script writing on this and the storytelling was just very cool. This is my favorite issue of Secret Six. And I think why that's important to note, we've talked about since this series has come out, how this has become our favorite book, and for me, this is my literally when issue Secret Six comes out, I don't care what else is in the stack, I read this first. Everybody's got a favorite book, whether you agree with me on this or not, it's irrelevant, and everybody feels that way about their favorite book. But I think it's important to note on a show like this that there's a hierarchy to the way I read books, and it's not everything fits the same level of enjoyment. This book, month in, month out, I'm captivated by it. And this is an issue where I'm like, whoa, this really blew me away. And I think it was so much the character-driven moment. You would think with all the violence and action in this series that I'd be going, yeah, high five at all the torture sequence and all that. It wasn't that. It was the character drama moments that were in here that I just thought were so brilliant. And it made the action mean something more. But that was funny with all the blood and guts and everything that was in there that naturally fit the scenes. That's supposed to be, and that needs to be there in this brutal moment. It really was the character drama and the character development that went through this, and it's very cool. Secret Six is an amazing book, and I can't urge you enough. If there's a book that you're not liking in your stack right now that you're kind of like, this book's not delivering for me anymore, and you're not reading Secret Six, do yourself a favor, because this is very different than anything out there, and I will keep praising this book for what it is, because I think
top of the stack. Yeah. This is it.
Do you find that you still do? This is the book that you pick up first when it comes out on the week it does? Okay,
this is my go-to. This is the only book that beat out Blackest Night when there was a Blackest Night issue. I would go to this one first.
Which is amazing, considering, because that to me doesn't take anything away from Blackest Night.
No,
it praises this.
Yeah, I know every time I read this, there's always going to be at least one or two moments where I go, woohoo, kind of like, I have those moments. You always get that from the six, for me. So I'm like, this is the first reach for.
You know what I'd love to do for listeners out there? I think this would be a great forum discussion topic spinning out of this. What is that book for you? I'm always interested in that. It doesn't have to be the same. I don't care if we all agree on books. I think part of the joy of comics is we've all got that favorite book. That one that whenever... Do you have one, or is it just that you kind of... Because for some people it might be that you kind of jump around. And I do have a lot of my stack where there's different books that kind of float. They're floaters. Where, they might be up higher on the stack one month, and then something else has got something interesting going on, so it kind of jumps up. This isn't a floater for me. This is like my stable one. Do you guys have, anybody listening out there, do you have that book, that one that it just seems to kind of consistently deliver for you every month, and you always grab it first? Or is it, your whole stack kind of shifts month in, month out, depending on the story arc? I'm curious on that, because I do think we all have different, unique, individualized reading experiences, and I'd love to know, or in the case of those of you that wait till the end for your best book, which is that book that you always save for last? Do you have that? Because I know we have some listeners, I always find that interesting too. Some of our listeners read their favorite books last. They save the best for last, the coup de grace, and that's interesting to me. I have no patience, I guess. I couldn't do that. I applaud you if you can. I can't.
I gotta go favorite for first.
Yeah.
I look at what came out. I'm like, okay, bam. I jump on the favorite one first because, as we, with us, with the mail order comics we get them on a Thursday, and with me the delivery is usually Thursday night. After work and sometimes even right before going to bed. So I don't have very long on Thursday to read. So it's one or two issues I have time to read before I got to go to bed. So it's always, my Thursday read is always the top of the stack. And then I, go to bed. And then on Friday when I get home from work, is when I jump into the rest of the stack.
Do you think that matters though? In the sense that, do you think that you would do something different if you got them on Wednesday and you had more time?
Well, I think I would still go to the first one, my favorites first, but it's really, I think if I had more time to read it, then I would be there would be probably a likelihood I could pick something else than like if there was, with the, how we had this last week, we had a bunch of the Superman stuff come out. And if I saw 3 or 4 issues that were all connected, if I had more time, maybe I would jump on that. Or like the end of Blackest Night, maybe that would be something that would draw me and say, oh yeah, hey, that came out. Let me jump on that. But if I only have time to read 1 or 2 comics, I'm going to pick very carefully which one I go with.
Okay, that does make sense. I mean, I was just curious because there are people who adamantly grab their stuff last, and I'm not knocking. I think that's very cool. I love that people have different ways they approach comics, because to me it's all about what is the most enjoyable experience for you. And I love hearing the passion of people just say, no, for me it's kind of like, dude, I start with my bottom of the stack and work my way up because I want it to be a gradually building. And that does sound attractive to me, that gradual build.
Yeah, the anticipation of what's to come.
I mean, that is cool. I get it. I completely get it. I have no discipline to do that. I think that's a very disciplined approach. So I applaud that because you can do it. I couldn't. I have probably the attention span of a 10-year-old, apparently. I've got to get to my fix first. I think it's interesting, though, that people approach it differently. And that's one of the things I've found enjoyable from doing the show and just connecting with friends and fans is talking to people about how they read comics and which books they are. But please, I want to say one more time, on the forum websites, wherever, Facebook, please let us know what is your book? What is your one? That one, Jim, you were talking about with Time-Wise. What is that book, the one that you've got to hammer or hit, whether it's last or first, wherever it falls in your stack? I'd be curious to see what other people are reading and enjoying that is hitting them consistently that same way.
A scarlet costume ejects from his ring, and in a blur of motion, police scientist Barry Allen becomes the Flash.
I don't know why I'd feel the need that we have to record this. We were having just a discussion about browsers because we were trying to find out what episode we're on. Because, for us, a lot of times we'll start recording segments just because we're motivated, and that's what happened in this case, this particular episode. We were talking about browsers, though, and Jim was saying that he had trouble with Internet Explorer. He said it wasn't working right, it kept crashing on him. So I said, I have more than one browser installed, and I said, I've tried things like Safari, Firefox, or Foxfire, I don't know. I always get mixed up with the Clint Eastwood movie, and then Chrome. I have on there. And then when I said Chrome, you're like, oh, no, not Chrome.
Yeah, I don't like Chrome, man. Chrome, Chrome tricked me. I didn't want to install Chrome. I wanted to keep the standard Google, and I clicked no, and next thing I know, the thing's installing. I'm like, what the heck's this? I don't want this. It threw everything off. And I was like, it took me a good, day and a half to figure out how to uninstall the thing and get it done and get it away from me. And I was just like, evil, and every so often, it pops up saying, hey, you can install Chrome. And I'm like, no. Oh.
Foiled again. I love that you were foiled by a browser. Oh, yes, it installed on me. It's like a vicious little gnome. It was in my computer. Get him out.
A little gnome I could deal with. This is, I tell you, man, this computers, they're becoming aware, man. This is Cyberdyne, let's, throw out the conspiracy theory. Okay, yeah, maybe I'm a little bit nuts, but you know what? There's something goofy going on with these computers, man.
I don't like what you're saying about me, Jim.
Yeah, well, they recognize the people who don't like computers, and it makes it even harder on them. I'm starting to have problems at work, too. It's like the computer at home is talking to the computer at work saying, give them a hard time, make it harder on them.
But you're not paranoid. You just know.
I know. Hey, hold on. I admit this sounds a little paranoid, but it's true. Is it paranoid if it's? Are you being paranoid if it's the truth? I don't think so. I think we need to keep an eye on some things here, people.
Jim, you're clearly not paranoid. You just know.
Exactly, man.
Jim, I want to do a shout out to the iPad. I actually broke down and got one, and I wasn't going to do this, but I'll tell you what sold me. And this is one where I curse you, Gail and Scott. Gail Simone and her husband Scott had one at Chicago. And I noticed Scott kept, he was using it during different panels and kind of, browsing through things. And then he showed us a couple images on it and stuff like that. And it was, it was kind of cool just how, she put on her website, You'll All Be Sorry, the forum that she does through Comic Book Resources. And I've got a link to it under Friends of the Show. If you go there and you click on there, and do yourself a favor, and if you're a fan of Gail's work at all, make sure you go there into the Wonder Woman forum that she's a part of. But she put up a thing about how she got an iPad by accident, and she was talking about it, and it was funny. I've got on here like the Netflix app, which she had mentioned, and then there's the Marvel app, and then there's a Comicsology app, and I already had the Kindle reader for my iTouch, for the Kindle books and stuff like that. And I put on a Travelocity app because we got an upcoming vacation. This thing is wonderful, though, and I actually got a chance to download a few comics from the Marvel one. I downloaded Claremont's and Miller's Wolverine. The first issue was free. So there's a lot of free comics on these apps to kind of test it out. And, dude, turning pages is the flick of a page. It's like you would expect to turn pages in a comic. And you can double tap on them to zoom in. It's just really, really cool to read a comic on this device. And, it's funny. I'm not into the whole, is this a replacement for paper or not? I don't look at it that way. What I looked at is I'm already looking at a number of comics on this that are 99 cents, for example, that I'm not reading. The books that I'm not reading that I'm like, well, geez, I'm not reading them budget-wise now, but for 99 cents, would I try it out? Sure. And, I want to see comics branching out more. And I do think devices like this with content delivery, it's reaching out not to me so much as to a new fan, because they look great on this device. They look really, really good. It accentuates the artwork. Everything looks great. The story's very simple and easy to read on this. It's good looking. So I think it's an interesting way to explore content delivery for comics. And it's a cool device. And it's something I would recommend for it. I'd like to see DC. Obviously, we don't have DC on here. There is a drawback to the device. And for anybody that's known, with the iTouch and stuff like that, it doesn't display Flash. So you can't go to websites that use Flash. They don't work. But there's ads, I'm sure, apps in the work that will enable you to go to those sites. I downloaded the ABC.com app, for example. I can stream ABC shows for free to my iPad. So I watched that Happy Town. The first episode was on this week. I watched it on the iPad.
Cool.
It was very cool. But a lot of podcasts have apps already. I'd like to that'll be something we'll do this year. Is we'll make an app where people can download our show via an app. I think it's kind of cool to have an app. So we will eventually have an app.
Okay. You want to hear? I'm going to throw myself under the bus for a second.
Okay.
And just, and this, to be honest, wasn't even a joke or anything by me. When you first said, it doesn't display the Flash, I'm thinking, well, they're not showing any DC comics, so of course they don't have the Flash.
Actually, I'm glad you said that, though.
Yeah,
do you know what Flash is? It's a program by Adobe. And a lot of websites need Flash or Shockwave or different little programs. It's when at the top of your browser, it's when that little bar comes up that you got to click to install this in order for it to run. Sometimes it's QuickTime from Apple and stuff like that. And it's something that it's a big controversy right now, the fact that this thing doesn't display Flash. But I am hoping to see Zuda, for example, to have an app. Because I think that would be a great way to read the web comics, to read them on this, in an app format. I do think tablets like this are the wave of the future. I mean, it's very light, very easy to use. For me, one of the keys was I can't check my email at work because of our site blocker. Mm-hmm. And I have an iTouch. I don't have an iPhone. And I was looking at, the cost to be able to do 3G on this was cheap. So I'll be able to check my email at work now and stuff like that, or anywhere I'm at. And it's got a GPS feature. So thing's cool. It's got a lot of, and I know I'm kind of drifting off the comic thing, but I didn't just buy the device for comics. If I did, I wouldn't have gotten it. It's everything else it can do. It's the bonus happens to be that I can read comics on it. And it's a very cool device. It was very easy to set up. I'm very happy with it so far. I've only had it, Friday it came out, and I waited in line. It was cool.
Okay.
Well, no, it was that was the only get one. I went to the Apple store, and I waited for an hour. So, waiting in line was nothing. They closed the store at 4 o'clock and reopened at 5, and you could get one. And it was cool. It was neat to be a part. I was chatting with a whole bunch of people in line, and we were just shooting the breeze, what are you getting one for? And for me, I have all my lesson plans on it as well. So I use it for practical purposes as well as for entertainment. I had them already on my iTouch. The problem with it on the iTouch, it was just too small for like my lesson plans and stuff. Now I'll actually be able to use this as a lesson plan book.
Oh,
so
cool.
The size, like it's funny how the size does increase the functionality. It is a big iPhone. It's a big iTouch. For anybody that's out there, I'm not going to pretend it's anything else. But there are apps and uses for it that I felt that the iTouch was too small that I will now use this for instead. It's not a laptop replacement by any stretch, but it's different. It's got some different purposes and things that I think are just really cool, and I'm just happy with it. I'm happy for the future of comics with something like this, because I think it's going to provide an inexpensive content delivery for some independent publishers as well, who are looking to publish something with a lower cost overhead. I would imagine something like this is going to provide those opportunities for a different comic delivery method, and I do think that a lot of books will benefit from reaching outside of the current comic audience. And I do think comic book retailers can benefit from the digital as a way to, if publishers get creative, there's ways to tie the digital into the retail, to the paper. You start doing promotions where there's coupons in the books, where you can get some cool digital extras and stuff like that. I think, there's a way to marry the paper to the digital, where I think you're going to have some digital-only people. I think you're going to have some paper-only people, but you're going to have crossover people, just like you do with trades and monthly periodicals right now. And I think it's anything that gets the industry more exciting and offers, I think there does need to be an affordable, less expensive way to get comics for a new audience. And I don't think, the paper product is still going to be there for people like us that still want that, because I'm always going to want that. But I think that there also needs to be a less expensive way to reach a new audience. And I'm hoping that this is something where we start seeing some current content. Like when A Blackest Night comes out, I would love to get to the point where something like that is released both in paper and digitally, with incentives for people that are buying both, like some bonus extras or features or things like that, coupon codes and stuff like that. Because I think that's going to be an interesting way to bring the audiences together. And I think it's cool. I don't know. I'm kind of excited about the future. What are your thoughts, Jim? I know I'm more on the techie end. So for me, I'm probably out of the two of us a lot more comfortable on the digital end. What are your thoughts on digital with comics in general? Is it something that you are afraid of with comics? Is it something you're into? I don't know because we don't talk about this much other than I ramble on. What are your thoughts on it? Does it matter to you at all, or is it kind of something where you're just? I'm curious.
Well, I'm one of those paper guys, and I don't see it as digital will kill paper. It's not like, video killed the radio star or anything like that.
Right.
I do look at it kind of like how you're thinking, because I'm thinking actually storage-wise. The reason I would actually want to go digital would be the ease of storage and stuff like that, because I'm looking at my rows of drawer boxes that I have, and I'm looking at the size of my room going, I'm going to run out of room really quickly here if this continues. So I kind of look at it that way, but I still, like reading the paper. And before, the monitor I had was really small, by comparison to what I currently have, a nice widescreen 24/6 or whatever inch, monster thingy that, I can actually see a full comic on now, and it looks better digitally on what I currently have. But it's still, I don't know. I would think that if I could get a bunch of stuff, for a really reduced price, I probably would go digital, and I actually would, but it wouldn't be what I'm currently reading in the DC stuff. Like if I were to go over to the dark side, maybe I would get them only in digital, and keep it that way, and that would be the separation of the two.
That would be that I agree with you. Actually, we're a lot more in sync in the sense that I don't look at it as a replacement either. And I see, in my opinion, is digital going to kill paper? No, because only if the entire paper audience decides to jump ship. In which case, that just means that ultimately that's what everybody always wanted. I don't look at it that way, and I think we as fans sometimes get so torn on we've got to choose one or the other. It's like we're at the grocery store aisle and it's got to be paper or plastic. No, it's really, in this case, I look at it as expanding the audience.
Yeah.
I don't look at it as targeting us. I look at it as, and to me, if comic companies look at digital as anything other than expanding the audience, they're making a huge mistake. It does apply to fans like you and me in just what you said. If it was cheap and affordable, would I read more? Sure. And that's what, like, the stuff I downloaded is stuff like I've got a Marvel app on here. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, my one disappointment is it's not the current books, and that's not something exclusive to Marvel. I don't think there's anybody right now, or if there is, it's a very small population. I'm going to have to look. So I please don't quote me on this. I've only had it for a couple of days. I don't think that there's very many publishers, if any, that are publishing their current titles straight to an app. I would love to see that eventually happen. Because I think that would be a way to get people interested and put the paper person on the same level as the digital, where they're not now conversing.
Well, I think the reason they don't do that is because they're afraid of competition amongst themselves. It's the same thing with the argument of how long do you wait until you release the trade?
Sure.
You know, you don't want your fan base to compete with itself. You don't want someone to choose, am I going to go with this paper version or am I going to go with the digital version?
And you know what? I am the type of fan that if it's a book that I really liked, I've got to admit this.
You'd have both.
I would. I could. There's comics right now that I could see that, wow, it would be interesting to have, you know, the digital version. It'd be interesting to see if there's digital extras and things like that come out. So you make an interesting point there, and that's a very valid point on the, you know, what will that look like? I don't know. I'm quite interested to see the future of comics with digital. It's funny when you were talking about video killed the radio star before. It really didn't, because the videos are kind of gone to the wayside and the radio star is still around, depending on your definition of radio. So it's funny that the song didn't
Well,
play out.
there is a period in music where, you know,
MTV ruled, yeah.
Yeah, and you know, you got people were rock stars not because they could play, but because they had the right look to them, and that's what that was all about.
Well, but music nowadays, there's a lot of music out there where it really is, you know, computer generated and stuff like that, where people are adjusted for that purpose. You know, so I mean, that is still present, what you're talking about, where people, their look does make a difference. So you're right, that still exists. It's interesting, though, to me, because we really thought the MTV era was the ushering in of something that was going to be a draft. And it did change music, but you know, I'm drifting off to the side, but it kind of fits the whole digital discussion. I don't see digital being a replacement. I really don't. I consider it an expansion the same way that trade is. I think we're going to get a digital-only audience where there's going to be people who come into comics through the digital and stay with it because they like reading it that way. And that's where I think that comics, they need to come up with a consistent digital delivery method. If you're going to develop a loyal digital fan base, where even if it's later, like you're talking about, Jim, where people can count on, like, let's use Blackest Night as an example. Let's say a year from now they start releasing Blackest Night in digital. Let's say DC decides we're going to start exploring with that. Let's start with Blackest Night, our big event from last year. They start releasing that. There needs to be a consistent release schedule where after they follow Blackest Night up, they should then start releasing the Green Lantern Corps issues, and the new, was it Emerald Knights, I think is the name of the new one, or whatever the new book is that Tomasi's doing.
Emerald Warriors,
thank you. Emerald Warriors. When those books are all come out, those should all be released along afterwards as well, in a consistent basis, where you can develop a consistent digital fan base of new readers. And I really think that they need to put promotions and things like that on websites where you would get, like, maybe a sci-fi fan that's never read comics before. You know, really target techie websites and gaming websites and stuff like that, and making some noise to tie in with the movie. Maybe that's when they should explore that digital, is release a digital app with the Green Lantern movie, and you know, a code along with your movie ticket or something. You know, that you can download a free primer, you know, to the whole Green Lantern universe or something like that digitally. But then when you hook that person in, have them a consistent digital release schedule after that. And that's, you know, that'll get those people. Will that bring people into the comic shops? Because that's always the thing. Yes, if they get hooked in, you're going to have a certain amount of that audience base that's going to hit a comic shop and want to read more, want to get trades, want to get back issues and stuff like that. I think we have to stop worrying about limiting the fan audience base to saying, well, geez, if we do that, then that person won't go into the comic shop. That's not true. Some of them won't. That's 100% true, and then the comic company's making money off of developing a diehard digital fan. And I'm sorry, there's nothing wrong with that. We need to look at that as an option for comics, because there's going to be people that do that. But there's going to be that fan that's going to become the casual comic shop person that comes in. And this goes back to the old newsstand days. When we were kids, Jim, there were comics on the newsstand, and there was a casual newsstand audience that went into the comic shops. There were still diehard comic shop fans back then, but there was also a casual newsstand audience. We need to look at digital as a newsstand. We really do. As a cheaper method for people to kind of expose themselves to comics. And, you know, that fan audience, you're going to get some diehards that jump out of that go, ooh, I really want paper now. I want to start collecting that. And you're going to grab new people that way. It's not going to be every one of the digital audience, though. Some of them are going to stay the quote-unquote newsstand. And that's it. We got to look at it that way, because I think it's good for the industry to start getting new dollars coming in from a new source. And that's what it needs to be, a new revenue source. It's going to be cheaper, like the newsstand was. Because I grew up with the being the Baxter books that you could get up at the comic shop, and we all wanted them because they were just plain cool, but not everybody did. Some got the newsstand reprints because they wanted to stay with the cheaper. And this has got to look the same way. And there is an audience for that. So, I don't know, I'm a biggie on the whole digital thing. I'm excited for it because I think that the industry's numbers are way too low.
Yeah.
And I think we need a new approach to an audience. And I think that's going to be good for comic book retailers. I really do. I think you are going to get a casual audience that they don't get now. Not the casual traffic that they should either. So, I don't know. Just kind of cool. I know it's a little bit of a tangent, but I thought with the device out and with the amount of noise that it's making and the fact that I bought one, that I thought it'd be kind of a good thing to talk about.
Carter Hall, scientific genius from a far-off world, flies into action as Hawkman.
It was funny when you and I were talking today about like what books are we going to talk about, and kind of casually. This is one of the motivations. This is earlier this week. You and I were talking on the phone about when we're going to record next, and we were talking about doing like a C2E2 wrap up with just speculation on some of the news. We're going to have Ian Levinstein join us from Comic Timing, and we're going to kind of do a nice little wrap up. And you were saying, I'm dying to talk comics, and it got me thinking. I'm like, I am too. So that's what totally drove this episode. I think it's good to do this periodically, where it's really driven by just a desire to talk about some of the great books that are out. One of the events that I've been really enjoying, and you've been really enjoying as well, has been this last Stand of New Krypton stuff, and then leading into, of course, today's release of War of the Supermen. And we were just talking now about where do we start? I was thinking War of the Supermen #0, but you were so right that we really need to at least talk about the final issue of Last Stand of New Krypton, because so much happened.
This has just been one of those outstanding event type deals, but it's an intertitle event, and it's funny because the Blackest Night, Brightest Day, all of that stuff has got all this, press, but we have these great Superman stuff coming out, and just this whole Last Stand of New Krypton, just the new Krypton 12 issue series that had Clark in it, then just the stuff that was going on in Superman and Supergirl, and just all the tie-ins and the little triangle type shield numbering system. I was really eating this up, and this is something that these last couple issues of the story arc, the parts 39 in Supergirl #52, 40 in Superman 699, and then 41 in part 3 of The Last Stand of New Krypton. I read those three things, then jumped right into War of Superman, issue 0 on from Free Comic Book Day, and this was just one of those wonderful flow-throughs that I was like, oh my God, this is just a great thing that's going on. And I always do laugh when I think about this, because Blackest Night was this great story, and I absolutely loved it, and I'm dying for Brightest Day and everything that's coming. I'm like, yeah, this is going to be so cool. But it really took away a lot of the attention that the Superman story, the Superman universe should have had. And it was weird that, I'm thinking, because this is Superman. Superman wasn't their main story, but he was. They had these two massive stories going on at the same time. Plus, then you got the third one with Bruce being dead and the return of Bruce Wayne and, Dick Grayson in the cowl. It's like DC has been doing these epic stories right all at the same time. And I'm like,
Wonder Woman, too, though. Wonder Woman had major stories going on. Honestly, one of the things that I really liked this year has been that there was a lot of books Booster Gold had its own major storyline going on with his sister and all that. That was very cool. I liked that there were epic storylines going on in a lot of titles. And some books were doing smaller things as well, and that was a nice breather from all that. So it was really nice to see a little mixture of things that were going on in a variety of books. It was funny. You almost missed Free Comic Book Day.
Yeah, I almost did.
Which is funny. It's on a Saturday, and I get the point because it's on the weekend, and that's why you should do that. You know what? One of the things Gail Simone put on her Facebook account, urging everyone to hit Free Comic Book Day because comic book retailers buy their comics and buy those free comics to put out on that day and to support the retailers and make sure to buy something else when you're there. You went and bought War of the Supermen #0. Did you buy something else when you were there?
Yeah, actually, I did.
Because you didn't buy War of the Superman, I should say.
Right, yeah,
you walked out
bought
with it. Yeah.
American Vampire by Vertigo.
Oh, cool.
Issue 2. When I did my pre-orders and everything, I've completely missed American Vampire. So I've been going to my local shop picking up the American Vampire stuff. So
I buy 2 copies of it because one of my coworkers is a big Stephen King fan, like me.
Yeah.
And I always buy with the Marvel releases, the Del Rey releases of Talisman, and then the Vertigo releases of American Vampire. That's kind of, we always exchange holiday gifts and birthday gifts. So what I do for him is I put in his card, got your comics for this year. And I end up just grabbing him, the Marvel and related stuff. And it's great. It's great, actually. I feel like it's great I can give him something DC. It's kind of cool. Just because of the podcast, I like being able to give him that book. That's a good book, that American Vampire. I really like that.
I'm really enjoying that, and I'm kicking myself for missing it. And I'm like, what the heck am I thinking?
It's an interesting read, so I'm glad to see that one out there. Anyway, back to
Superman.
Ryan Sook did the cover for this issue #3 of the last Stand of New Krypton, and it was interesting at this point. There's so much going on in the Superman universe with Nightwing and Flamebird having their big battle with the Kryptonian that's like a part of their like trinity of a sort, and the fake version of Ra, the sun god that's been brought back, from Krypton, and in really trying to, and I love that in itself is a big, almost a DC universe spanning event because of how many heroes are involved in that particular battle, and that's going off on the side while this whole new Krypton battle is going on up in outer space, and it was cool because it explained why the rest of the heroes weren't up there helping Superman. They couldn't. They were locked down there. Justice League and JSA and all them. They were locked down there taking care of Ra, the sun god.
Yeah.
So they were all tied up. That explained why they were in their place. Mon-El was up with Superman, and we get to see him with the Legion. What's interesting to me with the whole Mon-El storyline is the fact that he's in the Legion in the future. I always read with Mon-El being a part of them, or he was a major part of the team. I wonder where he goes from here, because in the future, he spent many, many years with the Legion. I guess now they're going in a different direction with him, where he's coming from this release from the Phantom Zone here and going back to the future with them now. I wonder if he'll have the memories, or if we're going to get some explanation of that. I'm curious to see and I'm not saying that's anything bad right now. I'm curious to see what Levitz does with this.
Yeah.
So I'm very curious to follow him. Did you see Mon-El going back?
No. Actually, I was a little bit surprised by that, because he does have this solid life that he's kind of forming here. And I thought that was a neat and interesting thing, that he's now gone. There are people on this, Earth who knew him, who are friends with him, who have, relationships with him. And they're not going to get any type of explanation unless Superman finds the time to tell them, hey, this is what happened. So I'm kind of curious. I'm also with the Justice League, because I thought Mon-El was going to be in the JLA for a little while. Well, I guess he's not going to be.
Well, you know who it's going to be. It's going to be Supergirl.
Yeah.
Supergirl's in that role. So it's interesting. I like that he was in the kind of the kickoff of that. And I wonder if Robinson knew. I wonder if that was something that just kind of developed, if those plans changed. 'Cause I think one of the sad things, and I don't follow numbers much. And kudos to you if you do. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. I think that's very cool. I don't have a statistics brain, so it's not my kind of thing. But I always enjoyed, John Mayo used to do for Comic Geek Speak, and he does it on his own podcast periodically, the numbers. And I do like that. I like listening and following that when those episodes come out. And when he did it on Comic Geek Speak, I always found it incredibly interesting to kind of, hear his analysis of numbers. I guess the Superman books have dropped a little during this in numbers. And I find that so sad because I think the storytelling has been top-notch quality-wise. I've loved what they've been doing here. So for me, I think it's sad that we actually have to say that this kind of experiment of taking Superman out of the books, I don't think it worked out the way that they had hoped. Mm-hmm. And I find all of the characters that they spotlighted here, I want to follow. Like Mon-El, I'm incredibly interested in now. Nightwing and Flamebird, I'm worried as can be for them in War of the Superman. But I'm engaged in those characters. Those are issues that are very much towards the top of my stack following all of these characters. Supergirl has become we had Jamal Igle on, and he's become a pure joy to follow. I arguably one of my, if not my favorite Superman character right now is Kara, because she's so cool in all of this and where she's grown throughout this story. So I don't know. It's interesting to me to see. I wonder what's going to become of Zod's. Zod makes a threat during part of this that he is going to, and I know I'm jumping a little bit ahead on this, hunt down the one that Clark cares the most about. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting to see how much of Clark's world is going to kind of bleed over. Because will Zod be able to find out that information?
Well, Zod probably already knows all about his secret identity and everything.
You would think right away, though, if he said he was going to hunt him down, wouldn't he say that I'm going to hunt down your wife, Lois?
True. But also, who could be the one he cares the most about? Could it be Lois? Could it be Ma Kent?
Lois. Well, he would be able, wouldn't he say your mother? He would say all of those things. He doesn't know. Because remember back to, well, I take it back. We saw during that he did hunt down the secret identity. He just doesn't know what remember, he came out of the Phantom Zone, so yeah. I don't think he's completely aware of what Superman's... I think you're right. He knows that there's a secret identity, but I don't think he knows his family structure yet. Or maybe we're going to find out that he does completely. Maybe you're right. Maybe we are going to find out that Zod has known for quite some time and has been planning for this. I don't know. That'll be interesting to see for me. This whole opening up of issue 3 with the what's happening bit, and we see that Luthor has really, during this whole time, had his own little plan in place.
Oh, yeah. And I tell you, I loved everything that they did with Luthor. In this issue, really just had me going, oh my God, multiple times. And just seeing him, he had his end game. How am I going to get out? Whenever you're dealing anything, you got to have your exit strategy. His was, let's increase this, suddenly just, grow this one city inside the ship. Let's crash this ship right into New Krypton. And that was a great exit strategy for him, a great plan for him to get out. And I thought that was like, dang, that's a neat idea there. Causing the death of thousands of innocent people in another city, hey, why not?
This idea of saving all these bottled cities and putting them back where they belong, being a Legion task, and this is something that they need to protect the future, and also to protect these species. It's a huge responsibility, because how do you leave your friend? Somebody who's been so good to you, somebody who's trusted you to, because arguably Clark and Mon-El have become brothers over time, mm-hmm. and at least cousins. The Supergirl Clark relationship. He feels a major responsibility here to Clark as a family member. And I don't know, do you feel that relationship that way? Big time. Am I right? Okay.
Dude, I say pure brothers. Okay. Part of the whole thing with him taking on the name L, was just that whole bonding that they had. And this even further. When Clark said, hey, I got to leave, he went to Mon-El and asked Mon-El to take over as the guardian of his city. Mon-El knows what, Metropolis and Earth means to Clark. So for him to now, when Clark needs him the most, for him to up and leave, that was a huge thing for him to do. And that was just a kind of a classic moment on Clark where he swings by and says, no, you have to do this. This is your mission. You have to save the future. You have to save these cities. I thought that was just a cool moment of Kal-El showing up and giving him, the blessing, saying, you got to do what you got to do. This is a Legion task force. This is a Legion mission. And it kind of goes to the fact that Clark is Legion. He still has that loyalty to his friends, to the what they stand for and their beliefs and whatnot. So I like seeing that moment with Clark, the Legion, with Mon-El. I thought that was a cool time.
The last Stand of New Krypton, we see that opening page segment. Pete Woods and Blonde really nailed this whole Brainiac ship flying apart in pieces as it's crashing. The city, because you see the city jutting out from all the different sides of it. as it's growing larger and larger and taking down that ship. And Clark's trying to do what he can because this thing crashing into the world of New Krypton is going to destroy everything. And he's like knocked out of the way almost by the sheer power of this whole thing. They've got 3 people. They've got Superman, Clark, and Connor trying to stop this thing, and they aren't doing it. Look at all the Kryptonians. That bit with all the Kryptonians.
Yeah.
Look how you can see how many of them, and there's literally hundreds of them, including Allura, trying to stop this thing from destroying New Krypton.
I thought that was a cool segment. Just these couple panels. There's nothing, no words going on. It's just pure written. It's pure just artwork storyline going. And you see at first it's Clark, then it's Clark, Kara and Connor, then Allura's jumping in, others Kryptonians. All these people are flying in, and I thought it was a really cool, just team moment. Kryptonians just bonding together, trying to catch this giant head from destroying their city. And I thought that was kind of a cool epic moment. It was one of those beautiful art panels that just, it would have been ruined in my opinion with words and thought balloons and inner dialogue. It's just this visual piece really accentuates everything.
Other than choom.
Well, the sound effects, you need the thoom and the choom and
The visual drama, the way that it was built, though, was so great. Because even when it crashed, there were multiple panels of it crashing. And I thought that was, to me, such a highlight of the whole thing, was seeing that whole build. And then we see the aftermath with, of course, Brainiac being involved in the whole thing. That's so bittersweet, with his relationship with her. Yeah. I grew up with them having a relationship. So it's interesting now how much of that is intact. Because it seems like he's got a big memory of having some sort of...
their relationship and just the fact that he's like... And it was funny because when they first started showing this, he was worried about corrupting the future and changing stuff. And so he didn't want to reveal to her their feelings and what happened between them. So I thought that was kind of a cool stuff going on.
Now here's an interesting bit with Clark getting skewered. I totally did not see that coming because I knew they were trying to stop Clark from dying, which was ultimately what was going to alter the timeline if Clark died. And Brainiac's really there to make sure that this does not happen. Luthor, when he comes out, this perverse pleasure over the destruction of Krypton, the beauty, this is like his dream come to life. It's his basically sticking it to Superman and to the alien culture in general, because it's, in many ways, he's looked at this whole New Krypton thing as validation for what he's been saying all along. And to now be faced with being able to look at his own victory, because he did all this.
Yeah, he's destroyed New Krypton. It was him, who, basically did the little, the knife in the back, and it wasn't even just New Krypton. It was all the aliens. He completely messed them all up. This is Luthor 1, aliens nothing.
Right. Yeah, actually he does, because he's not aware that the Legion escaped, is he?
Yeah, he thinks everybody's dead and destroyed.
Now, it was funny with the whole Brainiac thing and the debate between the two. He was so courteous to, Brainiac. It was really like he and Brainiac had come to a partnership. He had convinced Brainiac that they were, at least temporarily, allies.
Yeah.
Where Brainiac was really... To fool Brainiac is not easy to do.
I know, I was laughing because he's just sitting there, and Luthor. Luthor's going to double-cross you, but it's not only that. He's never going to side with an alien over Earth. He's never going to allow what happened to Krypton to happen to Earth, so he's going to step up, and he's going to do something to stop him. I was reading this going, this is perfect. This is classic, Lex Luthor. And then I flip the page, and I see, you are foolish to think I'd let you live. Crack! And I'm like, they just killed off Lex Luthor. Oh, my God. And I literally was stunned for, probably a good half a minute or so just staring at this going, is there any way he could survive this?
I thought because Clark was skewered, that whatever was going to restore Clark was what was going to restore Luthor. They swerved me here. I'm with you, and I thought Luthor was dead, which was really good because when the actual reveal of him being a robot later, this being a robot, and Lex putting that in place was revealed, I'm like, oh, this is so lax. It was
This is
great.
so good.
But they really convinced me. I think it was the fact that Clark was skewered beforehand, and they called in Connor. I'm like, well, okay, with Superboy sharing the blood of Clark and Luthor and stuff like that, is he's somehow going to be involved in the resurrection of both? How is this going to work? I didn't see it going where it did.
Yeah. And here's the funny thing. I completely forgot about that Toyman creation and that whole thing about.
I did too.
I completely forgot about it, and I was like, as soon as I saw the page, I'm like, oh, of course. And we even had this huge debate as to what Toyman used. And I was thinking we had already seen it, or maybe Eradicator was we toyed around whether Eradicator was the robot, and all these. It never dawned on me that it was Luthor. I was like, oh God, I'm an idiot.
Zod's ego moment. The Kryptonians are attacking Brainiac, and I so totally Kryptonians stop. I didn't think that was Zod until I turned the page and I'm like, oh, this is so good. When he said he's mine, this is so going to be good. He took the kryptonite, the red radiation sun, and shot himself so he could fight him one-on-one. I am Zod. I've got to say, one testament to this series is it's made me so much more impressed with Zod. And I've thought every bit of it has been consistent to who Zod is. I still find him a villain. I still find him a vile human being, or vile alien, whatever you want to call him, Kryptonian. But even so, you got to respect him as a general and as a leader. He leads by example. He's very skewed in one direction. We talk about leftist and rightist and where you fall politically. He's definitely in his own category of political beliefs, but he's very consistent to those all the way through, and he does believe he's right. Everyone ruling Zod, he does think is for the best for everybody. It's when I get into those sites that do like Zod 2010, the next. I'm always curious to see when that pops up again. Where the parody site that we've done before, because that's very true. That could be this Zod running for president of the United States, that Zod parody site, and I find that funny that when we read this character that there's a lot to laugh at, yet he's deadly impressive. That visual of him, I am Zod, is one of the more impressive moments from all of this year with Zod.
And I tell you, it's one of those things where should he have done it, yes or no? And on the one hand, you're thinking if you are super powerful, do you want to weaken yourself, just so you can have a level playing field? I always sit there and say that's an absolute stupid idea because, keep your advantage if you need it. But this was Zod. It wasn't done for, the moment, or it wasn't done for a sense of fair play. This was done for his people. This is where he earns their final respect that he needs to do the war on Earth.
Do you really think it's concern for the people, though? Or
I think part of it was his ego. I will completely give that to you 100%. That part of it was the Zod ego that I don't need my superpowers to beat you. I am the best at what I do.
No, hang on. No. Hold it. You misunderstand me.
Oh.
When I say it's his ego, I agree. Your ego, you're totally dead on. But when you're saying, I think his ego needs him to respect them. So in doing this, he knows this will put him exactly where you're saying, where they will look at it as, look what he did for us. This is a play for power. By shooting himself and going toe-to-toe with Brainiac like this, they respect him in a way where they will follow his ultimate endgame. We see in War of the Superman what that endgame is. He is setting it up so they will follow him without question. He is the hero of the Battle of Brainiac. This is what he's doing. It's his ego, but it's also a calculated plan. I think it's about his agenda. Zod's all about his politics. We've seen him sacrifice Kryptonians for his politics. This is not about him wanting to protect them or anything like that. I think he would protect his people in the sense that he needs his soldiers and his army and that type of thing. He needs them for that purpose, and there's that reason to protect them. But there's also an ultimate end game for him. It's always about winning the war. You can lose a battle, but you have to win the war. In this case, this is a battle that will help him win his war. And by doing what he did, he puts himself in a power position where he becomes more inspirational than Clark in their eyes. And he needs that at the moment. He needs to step up his game to look more than General L or Commander L did at that moment, where, when Commander L was leading the troops, they were starting to kind of side with him. Wait a minute, hold on. Look at what Zod did.
Yeah.
He went toe-to-toe with Brainiac without powers. Look what Zod did. And this is very much an end game for him. This is calculated, and I love that, because it totally looks the way that you were saying. But,
oh, yeah.
And it's about respect, but in a different way.
Yeah, this definitely was one of those. I really did like just how he handled this, because you think about it, right before this happened, Kal-El was one of the people who caught Brainiac's head that was going to crush the city. Zod was nowhere near there. Zod wasn't one of the bodies that were catching and stopping that head. Clark could have very easily used that as a tool if Clark was thinking politically and saying, "Hey, I just caught the head. Hello, we're still alive because of me, not because of you." No, Zod is turning this and using it, making sure Clark can't do that. And I thought that was kind of a cool stuff where Zod, once again, he's putting the attention on himself. But not only that, the person who prevented him from killing Brainiac was, of course, Clark. Because after he beats him down, after we get some really cool fight sequence where, Zod takes a couple punches, but in the end, like any other fighter, you got to take a couple punches. You got to understand what your enemy is doing. Once you know what they can do, that's when you go on the offensive. And that's what he did. He did like a really good rope-a-dope on Brainiac, where he takes a couple punches, then he just unleashes on him, beats the crud out of him, grabs the gun. Just as he's shooting him, Clark flies in and does the save of Brainiac, which I thought was just a great play for everyone to see, that here's Zod, he beat him down and then was going to execute him the way he needed to be executed, and Kal-El stopped it. Why did Kal-El stop it? And I thought that was just a cool play on all of that as well.
This whole Brainiac saving Clark thing, where he brought elements of the sun from the future to jumpstart him, was, I thought, just a great... It just shows that Brainiac is just operating on a completely different level. How do you plan that? Like, let's just take his son with us.
He is Brainiac, so
right.
Brainy 5 is pretty cool. I'm actually starting to like the guy a little bit more.
I am too.
I used to hate him. I wanted to see Lightning Lad just zap him one really good, or somebody just hit him. I'm like, someone just pummel him, please.
You are aware that isn't the same guy. This isn't the same Brainiac 5 you're talking about.
Really?
No, this is, remember, you're thinking of the Brainiac 5 that was with the Wade Legion that led into Shooter and all that. This is the one from the original Legion.
Oh, okay.
Well, and yet they share very similar personality elements,
right.
So the ego's there and all those things. So you're not wrong to feel that way, but this Brainy has had years where people have seen warmth from him in his own unique... I mean, what we saw with Supergirl is glimpses that people have seen for years with this character. So it's interesting when it makes your head hurt, but it's not that Brainiac you're talking about. It's funny, you're like, I wanted to punch this guy and all that stuff. Well, you can still go punch that guy because this isn't the same fella.
Oh, okay.
That was a different reality. How crazy is this?
I want to punch my Legion, man. Come on.
Well, you know what? You go ahead and do that and leave my Brainy alone, because that Brainy Soups moment was very cool to me. But he has the same... When Wade redid this, he was playing off of the personality traits of that Brainy because he had written him. So it's interesting to see that. I mean, it was very well done. I thought you were somehow better than Superman. In your ruthlessness, your desire to win at any cost, I could respect that almost. But a little prodding, goading from me, and here you are, depowered, my inferior, and by your own hand at that. I see now that you are a bigger fool than Kal-El. Wow.
Yeah, Brainy really, that was just the wrong thing to say at the wrong time. It was one of those, I like how Zod just came back with it. I'm not listening. Battle isn't wordplay. It's skill, precision. Get it? I'm better than Kal-El, better than you. And I just love seeing him. As I said, it was a rope-a-dope. He took a couple punches, but now he knows what Brainiac can do, so he throws down with him, and he really just pummels him.
I can't let you kill him, Zod. It isn't right. And that's interesting. It's one of those areas where I love the debate between, like, Clark did what Clark needs to be that person that's a step above all of us. I don't know that I think I'd let Zod blast him. With all of Brainiac's done, would you save him, Jim?
Would I save him? No.
No, I wouldn't either.
would I if I was Clark? Yes. Because, you have to have due process. You have to send him on trial. He has to stand trial. It can't be just Zod killing him. But if I was any one of those other Kryptonians, I don't think I would. I think I'd probably be like, hey,
I'm saying if you were you, getting them, I would let him shoot him. I think I would. I wish I could say otherwise.
If I was me, and if I was like a Kryptonian, me as a Kryptonian on that planet, I not only would have said, shoot him, the next page when all those people are cheering, I'd be in the crowd yelling, Zod, 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 I'd be right along with the crowd. I would have completely bought this hook, line, and sinker, and I'd be right along with them.
I'd be doing a Luthor from Superman 2, and like the second Zod shot him, and then Clark showed up on the scene, I'd be like, get him, Clark! I'd be doing a flip. Because I don't like Zod either. But, at that moment, it's like Brainiac out of the way. That's only good, right? I mean, he's shrinking down cities and stuff like that and putting people in a jar. I mean, that's evil.
Yeah,
there's no two ways about
evil
it.
There,
yeah.
And it's... I'm one of those guys, I believe in capital punishment. Mm-hmm. I believe punishment should fit the crime. But this is a guy who is responsible for millions of deaths. This isn't just the guy who killed somebody accidentally, lost control of my car a second and someone's now died. Oh my God, I'm sorry, it was an accident. Little difference between an accidental death and killing millions of people. Someone who kills millions of people, I'm not going to be too worried about due process. We definitely know he's guilty of it. It's something he's admitted to, something he's proud of. Kill him.
Well, I look at this whole thing, I'm like, I love my city. I live in Menor, Ohio. I love my city. But if it was shrunk and put in a jar and I was trapped in Menor, that would be like a living hell. I mean, that would be such a... And I think that's true of anybody living anywhere. We have freedom to be able to, drive out of our city from time to time, and we need that. Could you... I mean, I couldn't imagine being... How would you... You build a society where you're stuck to one city? It would be mind-boggling. That he puts people in a jar and does that and traps them in that kind of world. Could you imagine? I mean, that is...
Well, depending on the city. Because here's the argument I will throw out. Okay. You think about what Kandor is. Kandor is not like Cleveland or Menor or any of us. It's more of a New York City. So you get something the size of New York, which has a complete diversity and or just size and just magnitude of what your options are inside those city limits. Who knows? Maybe you could actually...
Dude, you're still stuck in New York.
But I bet you there are people who have never left New York. I bet you there are people who were born in the city who have never left it, and they're like, hey, why should I leave? I got everything I need here. If I want, something, I go over to this part of town. I want this, I go over there. It's, kind of the deal.
You can't import anything? You won't have anything?
That would be the hard part. The non-importing stuff, that would be tough.
I mean, you're really trapped in your city. I mean, so it's like, forget if you like staying if you're a homebody, that's all great, but you are really stuck to only what is in New York. You can't leave it. You can't have anything brought in. I mean, it's, whoa. And you're really reliant on your entertainment is only entertainment that has been, okay, let's go with New York then, that's been brought together in New York. We're very used to, as a society, having entertainment from all over the place. You don't have that anymore. If you're lucky, you get things up and running and you have New York entertainment, but that's it. I mean, that's it. It would be so claustrophobic. You think, I know what you're saying as far as New York being a huge city where you have a lot of diversity, and I agree with you. We see that the Kandorians did make that work to a certain extent, but yet you got to think that some of them psychologically are a bit skewed because they were trapped in a bottle.
Oh yeah,
and we see that too.
Yeah, I'm not saying it'd be easy or fun, but it's still, I don't know. It's one of those things where you look and you think about it. Now, the big thing you are mentioning that I didn't even factor in was no importing. That is a huge thing where, maybe you can get around the food thing to have the replicator type deals that they had in Star Trek. So you can get around the not needing, fields and grow your own.
Wait, you need to have somebody invent that though if your culture doesn't already have it.
Right.
Like if let's use our New York example. We don't have replicators. They don't exist.
New York in a bottle would be really messed up. That I'm telling you, I don't know if I'd like that. But I'm thinking. Hold on. I know I'm contradicting myself, but let me just finish.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. I use the New York as a scale reference, not as a literal example. Okay. Because we got to think. Imagine that New York has the technology that Kryptonians have. And that's the kind of diversity that you're dealing with.
What did you see?
Kryptonians have to have replicators. There's no way they don't have that kind of technology.
What did you see that you were like, wow, this looks really like a great idea. I'd love to be in a Kryptonian bottle.
Well, I never said I'd really like to be in. I was never going, wow, that'd be kind of neat. I wish that would happen to me. But it was one of those things
that was my whole point, was that you wouldn't want it to happen.
I never... Hold on.
This is an insane counter argument.
It is an insane counter argument. But here, let me fix this whole argument. Okay. I wasn't thinking that I did go, wow, this would be great the whole time I'm reading this. I'm saying if something like that had happened, I could probably survive. I could probably deal with it. I don't think it'd be as tough as you would think it would be. So I think you would be able to survive it, especially if you're in someplace that has such diversity that, like, say, New York City has.
But as long as it's not New York.
Well, as long as they have Kryptonian technology, because the food thing would be tough. If we didn't have replicators and we had to start growing food and that kind of deal, then we're talking half the population would get killed off because you'd need to make room for the fields. You'd need to make room for the farming areas, and then you're figuring, okay, we got to find like seeds. Okay, here's some. We got to make sure we know what we're doing, growing them, and stuff like that. And there's a lot of issues that are going on there.
It's interesting that Brainiac is taken away by Brainy.
Yeah.
And I'm very curious to see what the future looks like for DC. What Levitz is going to do in his run, and I am very excited for the Legion. I'm very Legion happy at the moment. It's interesting that all of this has been building since Meltzer's run on Justice League, where we had that squad that came in, and then it was built off of it was actually Johns and Meltzer, I should say, with that JSA JLA Lightning Saga crossover.
Yeah.
And into Johns' own run using Superman and the Legion. I'm very excited for this Legion, to see them back and to see what Levitz is going to do and what this team is going to be. Do you have a Legionnaire that, for me, I'm heavily interested in Mon-El, but outside of Mon-El, do you have Legionnaires that you're interested in following that have come out of this?
See, I always get confused as to who the Legionnaires are, I'll be honest with you. I do need a scorecard with them to know who is who, and I like that how they traditionally have that in the Legion books where they say so and so from planet so and so. Like, oh, okay, that's that person. I always did like the Lightning Lad and Light Lass or Lightning Lass or the brother sister tag team that we had there. I always kind of dig them. Just their attitudes and or mindsets that they've had throughout the various Legion series stuff that I've read.
I like her relationship with Timberwolf, too. I'm curious to see more of that explored. I've been a big fan of that. Mon-El, obviously, for sure. I'm interested in seeing more of. You never can have too much bouncing, boy.
Now,
go ahead.
The dude who can eat things.
Matter Eater Lad?
What?
Matter Eater Lad?
Yeah, Matter Eater Lad. Eating dude is what I called him. Is he going to be a regular, and is he going to be around?
I don't know what Levitz is going to. I don't know what Levitz is going to do team-wise. I think it's going to be interesting to see how he does that, because that's always been an interesting thing with the Legion, has been how the creative teams have juggled the sheer amount of Legionnaires that there are, and kept a focus on a core team, but yet then kept us very well aware of just how large in scale and magnitude the Legion universe is. So I don't have an answer for you on that. I don't think we've seen that yet. Because this strike squad is obviously going back to the future now. So they're going to be a part of it. So it's going to be interesting to see what the layout of the team looks like in the future with these guys coming back now. So I don't know. That's why I was asking. I was throwing out there, is there people you were particularly interested in seeing? Is Matter Eater Lad one of those that you want to see more of? Do you want to see him eating stuff? I actually kind of
do. It's weird. His power set's weird, but I liked the guy, and I liked what they did with him. And his and Mon-El's friendship that was growing, and just how he was his secret identity as that guy who ran the restaurant thingy that was right there in Mon-El's building. So I want to see if they continue on that relationship, that friendship that they started, going on in the future.
Is it that you want to see him eat more stuff because you're like eating dude? Well, is there something like you want to see?
I want to see the usage really of the power, and just because in here we see him eating some robots, and it even makes a joke about how they taste a little funny to him, and how it's his least favorite thing is robot. But there's got to be more to this guy's power and more to how he uses it than just going up and walking up and crunch, crunch, crunch and eating things. He can't be the Pac-Man of the Legion.
Okay, I'm fascinated by this now. What do you want to see him do with those powers?
Well, I'd like to see it that he can eat something and then transfer it into energy, or it makes him like he can channel, like when he eats like something, he can channel the properties into his body or something, where it's not just his soul power isn't just eating it; it's eating it and then using that somehow.
So you want to see him digest it. You can just say that's what you really want.
I want to see the digestion, but I don't want to see the end game. Okay, I don't.
But wouldn't the energy be the end product?
Well, yeah, hopefully. Hopefully the energy would be the end product.
So you do want to see that.
Other end games I would not be happy with.
Right.
I'm going to leave it at that, and people know what I'm talking about.
Well, I know. But I'm saying you kept saying you don't want to see the end product. You actually do. You want the byproduct to be This is really funny. It's funny. I'm going to be honest with you. I remember lots of Legion stories as a kid. Well, I don't know about lots, but I remember some Legion stories as a kid with Matter Eater Lad. And I'll admit my own ignorance as far as what... I remember him chomping things. But this was back when I was a kid. So I remember him chomping things. I don't remember much else about his powers. So it may very well be that what you're saying is a part of his power set. That's what's curious for me. This is kind of a revisiting of characters that I grew up reading, because a friend of mine was a Legion fan and was reading them. But I grew up reading them very casually. I read various Legion runs, including... I read the complete run that started with Wade and Kitson and went all the way through to Shooter at the end. And I don't know. I'm curious to see where these characters go. You know, the old team kind of brought back in again. And I don't know. Wildfire is one that I definitely want to see. Dawnstar. I've always liked those characters a lot. I'm most familiar with them growing up. I've loved their growing relationship that we've seen play out in the pages recently. So I'm curious to see where that goes.
The shape changer guy, changeling or changing chameleon boy. Thank you. I kind of like that one as well. That's another character that I'm kind of curious about.
I was always a fan of Colossal Boy, the one who can make himself giant. I always liked him. Cosmic Kid, Cosmic Boy, I should say, not Cosmic Kid. Cosmic Boy. Okay, everybody's kid. I don't know. I like the Legion. I'm very interested in them, and it is. You're right. The sheer numbers of them. I'm interested in the vast scale, because I'm a big fan of dealing with. I thought Johns was always impressive in how he did it when he did the JSA. When, that whole Just Society aspect that he did in this recent run when he kicked it off, with how many characters he was juggling. And the Legion to me is a similar undertaking, and Levitz has been a master at it in the past, so I'm curious to see how he does it today. Mm-hmm. And I'm curious for that, so that's cool. Anyway,
now, talk about Endgame.
Ursa?
Luther was just wonderful. I love this. And I really just... One, he gets the full presidential pardon, but then two... We see.
But wait, what about? Hold on. You're skipping.
Okay.
You're skipping Zod here, dude.
Well, I was going to come back to Zod.
Okay.
Figured we'd run all Zod together.
Okay. Well, if you want to do that, go ahead and go on with Luther then. That's fine.
Well, just you think about it, because he's get his full presidential pardon. Then he at the end of this one, he's like, "Hey, what about my other thing?" Which we see later on in his Action Comics. He gets the body of that Raul, the fake sun god, to study that. So now we got Lex Luthor, full presidential pardon. So once again, Luthor Corp is in full swing with Lex in control. Plus, he's got his hands on some more Kryptonian DNA that was this massive, powerful entity being type, godlike being in the hands of Lex Luthor. Oh yeah, that's going to be good news for everybody.
Zod, he has his victory taken the way of sorts with Brainiac, but that wasn't really what he was going for. And that was what I thought was so interesting. He would have loved to have been the one to deliver the killing stroke, but it really was only a battle on the road to his ultimate war, which was getting his people to rally behind him to take down Earth. This is what he wanted all along. This is his ultimate endgame. And he's got them at a point right now where they are willing to declare war on Earth because of everything that General Lane has done. He's put himself in a place now where he can actually bring this war down on them. And that, to me, is such an interesting direction for this to go in. I didn't know what was going to lead to the War of the Supermen. I knew Zod was going to be, obviously, the the major catalyst. But I wasn't sure what ultimately... I didn't know if it was going to be like the destruction, the permanent destruction of New Krypton, which we didn't see here.
Yeah, New Krypton kind of survived. But I liked how he played this. This was... The old order is dead. All but Allura of the Council is dead. And you think about it, as the War of New Krypton was going on, the last stand of New Krypton was going on, Zod really wasn't that concerned with protecting the Council. This was his end game all along. He wanted them to die so that the people would reach out and look for somebody else to lead them. So he was in... Granted, I don't know if he actually intentionally wanted them dead, if that was his plan, but I'm thinking kind of was his plan, that he was like, hey, let the Council die. Let my people, a bunch of my people die. You know, they need this tragedy. They need to be beaten down. They need to have this look epic and hopeless, and then I'll come in and save the day. And I'll come in and deal with it with Brainiac.
See, to me, the Council would have only gotten in his way. Which was
big
ultimately
time.
his big concern, was the fact that if I get them out of the way... So he wasn't shedding a tear at all for the Council and where that all went. He was more thinking, like, this is exactly what I wanted, and this ends up playing this way. And it could be argued that he set up events in place where the Council could be taken out. Or expanded on events that would have taken the Council out.
Yeah, it's one of those things part of me 100%, well, it's funny, I say I 100% believe this, but then I'm not 100% certain. So it's one of those, I have these strong passions that his whole game plan from the beginning to end was Brainiac kill off the Council. But then I'm thinking, okay, if Zod truly wants to be the champion of Krypton, would he want that to happen? Would he want that? Would he want these people, innocent people, to die? And I'm like, wait a minute, I'm thinking champion of Krypton as I think Clark, champion of Metropolis. Two completely different beings. Clark wouldn't want the Council to die. Zod, he wouldn't have a problem with it because, you know what, I want to be the champion, but I also want to be the ruler because I'm the best person for the job. And the Council, it's not a best deal. You know, there's too much conflict. There's other people who are involved in decision making. It's best for this planet if I am the only one making the decision making. So let them die. So it's kind of one of those deals where, on one hand, I don't want to think Zod's thinking that, but on the other hand, I'm like, you know what? It makes perfect sense that Zod would want Brainiac to kill off the Council, kill off a bunch of people, and take over.
We talk about this Free Comic Book Day issue, War of the Supermen #0. And this is one of the ways, like, you talk about with digital, what is going to help comics, the paper comics? It's still having Free Comic Book Day.
Yes.
And you could even tie this into the digital, where in order to get the digital copy of the free comic book, you have to actually own the free comic book, because it will have a one-time use digital code. Because that, I mean, like, for example, on my PlayStation 3, I get all the time, a digital code for this, a digital code for that. But it's a one-use thing. Once you've used it, it's done. You can't use it again. So, you make that code a one-use code where you have to buy the issue in order to get it. And that's where you bring the digital fan into the comic shop. They have to go get that so they can go buy something else and, kind of check out what it's like to have the paper product. Then you get the, non-digital fan to try out the digital. Or to at least have a digital copy if they would like one. So it's kind of an interesting kind of way to promote both brands, both delivery methods. So, I think there's ways to still support both, and I think you need to do that. Start going to a digital code system where you're doing things to help both markets, and I think that's kind of cool. This prologue, though, Eddie Barrows, I loved his artwork on Teen Titans, and to see him on this book, J.P. Mayer did the inks, Rod Race doing the colors, and I know I probably butchered the last name. John J. Hill's the letterer. This was written by James Robinson and Sterling Gates, and to me, this is just a very well put together event, because at this point it's been building to this, and I knew, obviously we knew this was coming, where it was going to be the Kryptonians attacking Earth, but I didn't know if it was going to be all the Kryptonians attacking Earth, or if there were going to be factions, or what's going on, and I don't think we're 100% certain on that, but we certainly know that a good majority of them are following Zod.
Yeah, he's got a pretty good-sized army attacking Earth, and it's kind of curious to see what's going to happen, because General Lane's no idiot. He knows how to fight Kryptonians now, and he's had some time to prepare for this invasion and get ready for it. So this is going to be an interesting fight. We're going to definitely see a high body count on both human and Kryptonian side, and I'm kind of curious to see what the final end game is of this War of Supermen. I don't know. I love just this opening where you see Clark just coming in, and he starts the initial pounding on Zod, but it doesn't completely go his way.
Well, and it's his inner dialogue leading up to that, though, where he's talking about how he gave up a year of his life. And really the goal here was to educate his people, to keep them from making the mistakes, to keep them from following Zod, to hopefully be a symbol and to lead them in a better way, to kind of do what he's been doing on Earth, hopefully there. And I'm going to be curious to see if maybe he's not realizing how much of an effect and an impact that he's had. Because I do think he's going to have people that he's made contact with who will still listen to him at this point. Even though Zod's kind of become the hero of the day, the man of the hour, so to speak, is it that simple?
And one of the things that got me, that I thought was really kind of interesting and got me thinking stuff off the page, because Zod is sitting there as, talking, kind of talking down to Kal, and just basically saying, hey, you're not a Superman on this planet. You're one of us. We all have the same powers. We all have the same beings. We don't look at you the way the humans look at you. And I thought that is a huge kind of statement as to why, Zod was able to do this kind of stuff. Well, you think about it. On Earth, people look up to in awe of Superman. On New Krypton, there was some moments when he started, people like, yeah, okay. But in the end, he is just one of them. And Zod distinguished himself as being something above the rest of them.
That's not entirely true. I'll tell you why. Zod, first of all, I think Zod's doing a little bit of psychological warfare there. I agree with what you're saying to a certain extent. He is viewed differently by Kryptonians in the sense that he hasn't been their hero the way he has on Earth. And he isn't. They've got the powers he has. But remember, they didn't have them up until their city was re-enlarged. So they got those powers, and Zod used Clark and his experience and their respect of his experience as a way to train his troops. He put Clark in that position deliberately for that purpose to, again, go to this endgame. I agree with you that they don't view him exactly the same way, but there was a bit of an awe in his abilities, because he worked over a whole squad very early on in that series. So I do agree with you in the sense that Zod doesn't respect him the way that Earth people do. But I don't, there's a lot of Earth villains that don't respect Superman the way that a lot of the general population of Earth does. So it's interesting, though. I don't know. I just think that it's very interesting that Zod makes those statements, and I don't think they're 100% true. I think he is doing a little bit of psychological warfare to kind of make Clark think that he's less than he really is, when you don't do a sneak attack like he did with Ursa, if you really believe that. Well, that's to me a contradiction.
Well, yes, I will agree and kind of disagree, because the Ursa attack, which I thought was really slick, because that was really using her to her strengths. That's the kind of fighter she is. She's not the, come up front, face off and then fight. She is the strike from the shadows. She's the ninja assassin type deal. So that is her MO and her strength. And same thing when Nan came down through the ceiling and just smashed on him. That is kind of Nan's, forte. This is, this is their combat style. So they're being really true to who they are, and it's not the most honorable of fighting styles. I'll give you full credit on that comment, but it is. I don't want to say cowardly or even a sign of
really
anything like that.
So he's blatantly attacking Clark in a very different way than he did Brainiac, and you aren't. See, to me, I'm looking here as he's more afraid of Clark, not afraid. But he has more respect for Clark's abilities than he did Brainiac. He depowered himself and went one-on-one, toe-to-toe with Brainiac. Now, he did that, obviously, to further his endgame, but he also did that because he believed he could handle it. You don't see him here saying, everybody stand out of the way, he's mine. He isn't doing that here. And the reason why is he's not taking any chances in this case. It's a smart general move. I'm totally behind what Zod's doing here. I think it's a great move. But he is definitely not handling Clark. We saw him handle Brainiac in a completely different fashion. He looks at Clark as a different kind of threat than he did Brainiac.
Right.
Yet he's saying that we don't. No, we're not, because you're saying that we're Kryptonians. We view you the same as everything like that. They're not. He's doing a 3-on-1 here right now, or at least a 2-on-1. He's got them with a Kryptonian knight. He's got two of them facing him. If they think he's less than nothing in a speck, wouldn't you do that by having one of them take him down?
I can see your point. I do see your point on that, but I think part of it, you know what? I'm going to kind of retract something I said, but not fully retract. I'm going to do a partial retraction, in that I think, I do agree that, Zod does respect and in a way fear, what Clark can do. He does fear the skills and the abilities, but the overall appearance of Clark to the people, I think, is, the Kryptonian people overall don't look at Clark the way the human people look at Superman.
Here's the thing. I think he wants to believe that.
Zod knows what he can do, but the people themselves don't see this image of hope, this great leader that they can look to, this person who can help them. They see Clark as Kal-El. They don't see him as Superman.
You don't think that Zod... I think Zod thinks the opposite. I think Zod saw a guy who inspired a lot of his troops in a way that he does not want to happen at the moment. He likes his current power position, so let me play around with Clark's head a little bit. I can't martyr him right now, because if I do that, then we might have some dissension from some of those people that rallied behind this guy, because he did build some loyalty in his troops. I think Zod's afraid of the symbol of Superman a lot more than he's letting on. This is a guy, I agree, to a certain extent we are saying the same thing in the sense that I do agree with you that they do not view him the way that Earthlings do. But I think Superman as an inspiration, as a character, as a person that, and when I say character, I'm talking about as a person with strong characteristics of leadership, of somebody who inspires. We saw him do this in the world of, and I think that's where this Superman World of New Krypton series was so dead spot on with what they did with this character and showing what he can do when he works with a group of people. He made people question the guilds. Now, the guilds are a major part of this society. But he made people realize, and they've realized at this moment, that, wait a minute, we were all operating differently. It's insane. Not everybody, but, they're going to have to take a look at the fact that this guy was speaking some common sense. He got in the face of the way their society operates. And it's, to a certain extent, look what they did with the Labor Guild. Those were all things that were inspirational and change, and he was saying things that maybe all of them wanted to say for quite some time, but didn't know how to. So I think Zod here is a little worried. I'm not worried. I think Zod is respecting the fact that this guy, we need to keep him away from everybody, and we need to keep everybody thinking that he is just somebody else. I don't think he's doing this just for Clark. I think he's doing this as a public display because he wants everyone to see that Clark is just less than them. I think this is more of the show that we've been seeing from Zod that we saw with Brainiac. He's handling him in a different way for a psychological reason, to try and keep that advantage. He's a brilliant man. I love seeing that he's not all thug. It is more of brilliant strategist. And that to me is just, it's been some great writing with Zod.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. And, I one of the things that I did like was, because I kind of questioned how Non was going to deal with Clark, because throughout throughout the New Krypton story, there kind of was it seemed like a respect growing. And there was kind of like, because Non was part of Clark's unit, and he was following Clark's orders, and he was obeying, but you see now very clearly where Non's loyalty is. It is to General Zod. And if Non was showing any loyalty to Clark, it was because he is a soldier and you followed the chain of command. But in the end, it is General Zod who has his loyalty.
Now, what's interesting here is, too, that I think deep down, Zod would like Clark to see his way of thinking. Like, he looks at him as a potential valuable asset, so to speak. So a lot of times when he speaks to Clark, it is trying to bring him around to a philosophy. And I like the relationship and the way that Zod deals with him.
Completely agree with you when it came to New Krypton stuff. I think throughout that whole New Krypton story arc, that 12-issue series, he was trying to get Clark to see his line of thinking. I think now we're at the point where Zod knows that Clark's not going to toe the line. Clark's got to be taken down, or Clark's got to be dealt with.
Oh, I agree. But I think it's something in the way he speaks to him. I think ultimately he wants Clark to see that he was wrong, if that makes sense. It's not because, I mean, realistically, he's got a kryptonite knife to him right now. Why not kill him? Like, why not kill him right there? Why isn't he doing it?
Yeah, I don't know.
Because he needs, it's part of the ego thing you go back to. He wants Clark to see, ultimately, that he was wrong. And I guarantee you right now, no matter what way this is going to go, the last thing he was thinking is, I want to kill Clark.
Well, he doesn't want to make he doesn't want to make him a martyr.
Right, I agree.
Yeah, that's huge, thing there. And two, as you said, there are probably people who will have some loyalties and would question, why did a Kryptonian kill a Kryptonian? He needs, Clark to really stand up and try to stop them. When this war actually throws down, if Clark is fighting on the side of the humans, then Zod can kill him without any hesitation or any worry of anybody, siding against him. But until Clark has that open defiance of, I choose Earth over Krypton, he's got to watch what he does.
And I love how you're right. He is you're making an interesting point here, because he's antagonizing him with the whole "you renounced Earth" thing to get him to say, I didn't renounce Earth. Right. And is he then playing that end game to take, maybe that's exactly what he's doing right now, is let me rally you and let me he is playing him into that position where he wants him. So he could kill him.
Yeah, he wants Clark to fight on behalf of Earth. And I think, and that was actually, and you think about how this goes on with the ending panel with him saying, I'm curious how you'll stop me, Superman, when I've already ordered the attack. Mm-hmm. And he's already launched the invasion of Earth. He's already sent out, what looks to be a large number of, if not all of the Kryptonians to attack Earth. Right. So it's going to be interesting.
That is an interesting part of this whole story. I know this Free Comic Book Day issue was very cool.
Oh, definitely. I like that they did this. And they did this for Blackest Night with the Blackest Night Zero issue last year. And they did it here. I thought that was kind of cool.
I like that it wasn't just that main, lead-off story. They did kind of like an overview of what's been happening in the Superman universe. It's a nice primer for anybody that hasn't been reading the series. They brought in a lot of the artists associated with Superman and just did kind of an interesting, who's who. Because figuring that right now this might be a jumping-on point for people who haven't been reading the Superman universe, I just thought it was very interesting.
Yeah, because you figure there are going to be people who grab this who have no idea what's the War of Superman, huh? Hold on, and having it be General Zod, Clark and Allura, those are names that people will know. Even if you're a casual, comic book fan, you'll know the name General Zod, you'll know Clark, and that could actually maybe rope somebody in, saying, hey, what happened here? Oh, okay, this looks interesting, this looks cool.
But they actually lay out the whole entire cast, and I love this bit with Jimmy, where he comes in, and this is where, seriously, dude, Smallville right now is playing off a lot of this stuff. And I think it's really cool to kind of see. I'm not saying that it's a carbon copy of this. It's not. But there's thematic elements of this that are occurring in Smallville right now in their own way. They're doing a Smallvilleized version. But I think it's very cool to kind of see this event playing out at the same time that Smallville's doing something similar. Because it just gives you this whole really cool Superman theme right now that's multimedia. And I want to see how Lois handles her father.
Yeah, that's going to be something interesting because General Lane, he's a fascinating character to me because he has the qualities of this great general, but then he also has the weaknesses of somebody has these strong prejudices, and anybody who has such a strong hatred based on race or anything that's not race, whether it's a religious hatred, whether it's a sexual preference hatred, when you have this just hatred based on just that one element, not based on the person you're dealing with, it tends to make you not think completely straight and not think completely clear. So you have this brilliant general, and Lane is a brilliant general and strategist, but he does have this weakness in his hatred. And I'm curious to see if his weakness and how that plays out and what's going to happen in this War of Superman. It's something that's kind of has me fascinated.
Yeah, me as well. I can't agree more. This event is it's going to be every week. We're not getting a Superman book this month.
Right.
We're going to be getting this event every week. And then we'll be jumping into the anniversary issue of Superman and stuff like that. It's very cool that the way that this event's playing out. It was a good idea to do this from Free Comic Book Day. Because you really got an event that like everybody can just kind of lead on, and then it leads into a new status quo for the Superman books, because everything wrapped up in the other books.
Now, the thing I wonder is with them and, timing, and how long did they plan this out, and when did they realize that Free Comic Book Day was going to be right before you could do the War of Superman, or did they say, hey, we got to make sure we shift it here? That's what I'm curious, is how much of how much planning and kind of style did it take?
I don't know. That's because they planned this for a year.
Yeah.
To run a year. So obviously they knew when they'd started it and kicked it off that it would be ending around this time. So I don't know. I'm sure that they probably took a look at the scheduling. That's amazing to me, because they had the scheduling of Blackest Night last year, where the kickoff to that was going to be the Free Comic Book Day issue. And now we've got this kicking off at the Free Comic Book Day issue. I don't know. It's
good timing.
It's great timing. I mean that's obviously not accidental. It was planned out that way, but the storytelling did. It was funny how, like, Dan DiDio was talking at the Sunday Conversation, and this particular Superman thing was brought up. And I'm sure this was in reference to the way sales have been with it, but he just said that we were looking at what we were doing with Superman and taking him out of the books and putting him into the world of New Krypton as a way to, in those established Superman books, to introduce new characters and to bring new characters that now could be established in those books to a new prominence in the DC universe. And he said that ultimately, did it take did we go too long with it? I don't know. What do you think? Do you think that this went on too long? Did you feel that this event went on too long?
For me, no. But I bet you there are probably a lot of people, who thought it did go on too long. Because, it's one of those things when you start looking on the internet, you find a lot of negative commentary. And I know I read a lot of people who were unhappy with how long Superman wasn't in any of the Superman titles. Now, both of us enjoyed that. And that was something that I was like, what, really? You're not liking this story? Because I'm kind of digging, Mon-El, and I'm digging Nightwing and Flamebird. And I was getting my fix of Clark over in World of New Krypton. So I was like, I'm happy. I got everything I need here. And I wonder if like Mon-El, if his title was doing a lot better, if people were really clamoring for it and saying, wow, this is really cool, would he have left with the Legion? Or would he have stayed on Earth? Would he have stayed with the JLA? That's my big question I wonder in the back of my head. What if the sales were through the roof on his title? What would have happened?
I think that you pose it. Well, I think that's true anytime, though. I don't think that's exclusive to this event. I think you can have the opposite, where you did something as kind of a throwaway thing. Just kind of because it fit the story, we threw a character in, but all of a sudden they become mega popular. And then you branch that character off into a series because of popularity that you didn't expect, if I'm making any sense there. I think you can have the opposite reaction as well. In this particular case, I don't think it played out the way that they were hoping. I wish it had, because I would love to follow a series with Nightwing and Flamebird. I would love to follow a series with Mon-El. These are characters that, I'd love Mon-El to I say that I'd love Mon-El to stay on the Justice League, but when I heard what they're planning to do with Supergirl and Nightwing, or Supergirl and Batman, however you want to look at it, where they're going to have a brother-sister relationship, a new kind of World's Finest with those two. I like that. And that to me I find that interesting. So obviously that might have been a shifting of gears per se, or maybe that was an intention all along. I don't know, but that to me, I find that I'm entertained by that thought.
Well, something that just popped in my head is Batwoman. She's doing so good on Detective Comics that maybe I don't know if it was planned for her to have a solo all along, or if the sales were doing so well that they're like, hey, let's get her a series. Let's, run with this. Because she's a character that is really developing, and people are they're liking this, who she is and what she's about and all that stuff. So
I think
I don't
she's
know.
a character, though, who they did a similar thing with her, where they put her in Detective Comics,
Yeah.
specifically to see if they could launch her off into a series, and that's where it worked. So I think I like the experimental nature of this. I thought this was a good move. Let's try it and let's see what characters stick. Let's tell some good stories along the way. I thought they told good stories. With any risk, some of them paid off, some of them didn't. A great example is, a lot of the stuff they did bringing back characters from Blackest Night. I think Brightest Day is going to draw in a lot of people who are going to be looking at some of these characters in a way they probably didn't before. Aquaman, I think, is going to be a character that I think is going to have interest in a way that probably he hasn't by comic fans.
Alive Man.
Alive Man, yes, very cool. Alive Man, I think is going to be very interesting. Alive Man, I think it's going to be very interesting to follow as well. I don't know. I think to me this is a very exciting time to be a comic fan, and I'm talking about cross comics. I just think that the industry is getting very creative. They're playing around with some things. The focus is on good stories. Yeah, we get things like variant covers and stuff like that. I'm a fan of them right now, and I think to me, I have zero issue with variant covers and stuff. I know they're a money-making move, but I think if the books are interesting enough and the stories are cool, it's exciting to pick up a variant cover, when they do that kind of stuff. But to me, I think one of the key things right now that's making me excited about comics is that the storytelling is so top-notch, and they're really focusing on putting great artists with great writers to do interesting stories every month. And this is, let's do more of these events in their books. I love that Batman's an event. I love that Superman's an event. I'm excited to see where Wonder Woman goes. I'm sad. It's bittersweet because I've loved Gail's run so much. I'm excited to see where her book's going. Yeah, I'm really excited at the moment. I'm excited for new series.
Yeah, there's some cool stuff coming down the line, and it's the returning of some old friends. Birds of Prey coming back. Really looking forward to that. Just want to see what's going to happen there. And I don't know. I'm starting to get excited about Ollie. And Green Arrow and everything they're doing there. It was one of those things where I was like, this could be a thing, and then I was down on it for a little while, and now I'm like, you know what? I'm liking where this is going. I'm liking the Arrow family. I want to see what they're going to be like in a couple years because I know it's going to be a dramatic change from what I'm seeing right now.
JT Cruel, to me, gets a good Green Arrow story. And I think we're going to get to a good Green Arrow story with all of this, where I think he's going to pull in some neat little tricks from his past. I don't know. I do think his Blackest Night Titans and the stuff he was doing on those Titans issues that he was doing during all of that has given me a lot of faith and confidence in this guy, that he understands the DC universe and these characters and how important it is to go back to the history. So I'm excited for this. I do think that this guy with Green Arrow, and I thought the Rise of Arsenal, the second issue of that book, was very good. So I'm glad that out of that event, whether you liked what they did with Leon or not, I'm glad that out of that event we're seeing storytelling that is making sense spinning out of it, if that makes sense.
Oh, definitely. And I am really glad that the significance and the importance and the sheer magnitude of killing off a little child isn't being lost. And it's not something that was done half-heartedly or lightly. This is major ram effects across the, it's...
Did you say ram effects?
Yes, I did. I was hoping you would catch up. I was hoping you'd think I was just a glitch on the Skype or something. Well,
I kept saying Arsenal, so it's all right. I mean, I have an Arsenal. So I'll throw myself under the bus with that. I have to go, what the heck are ram effects? Ramifications.
Thank you.
It's the teacher in me, sorry. We've been testing all week, so I'm in that place.
But I'm liking that it's not just the Ollie, Dinah, and Roy and effect. It's people they interacted with. Even light interactions with people, you're seeing them, respond to this. And you're seeing some significance going on with them as well. So it's definitely a cool thing going on.
I'm happy.
Sad as all hell, but cool.
I'm happy that heading into summer, things are just getting so exciting. Because they've been exciting to me, and they're just, the ball's still rolling. And that's something that's interesting, because we got the whole Bat stuff coming out. We got this. I mean, there's like something all over the place. We're getting a new creative team on Booster Gold, which is a book I've been enjoying a great deal. And to hear Giffen and DeMatteis taking over it, I think that's going to be a lot of fun, too. And then, my smaller books like Doom Patrol and stuff like that are quite interesting. Rebels with Starfire. The Starfire issue was very cool as well to see her on there. So there's a lot to talk about, I think, over the next few weeks.
Holy caffeine!
Jim, as I mentioned at the start of the episode, our next episode is going to be a C2E2 wrap-up with Ian Levinstein from Comic Timing. Ian was there, and it will be great to get his thoughts on... We're going to go over some of the news from the rest of the DC panels, mainly speculation and just what things we're excited for, because a lot of that stuff you've already read over the internet. But we're also going to talk about, I'd like to talk a little bit about Wildstorm and Vertigo as well, some of the news coming out of there. Just kind of a great chance to talk about the books that we're enjoying and also what we're most looking forward to from those lines. So this would be kind of a great opportunity to talk a little bit globally about what DC's publishing product-wise. So that'll be a lot of fun on that episode. And Ian Levinstein's going to be joining us for that. Our sponsors for this episode, DCBService.com. Go over there this week to check out the brand new books and the great deals you can get on pre-ordering books from DCBService.com. InStockTrades.com, Batman the Cult, regularly $19.99, 47% off, only $10.59. It's a pretty mammoth volume, too, for that price, so that's very cool. Thank you, DCBService.com and InStockTrades.com for supporting us. Reminder everyone about the Summit City Comic Con put on by our sponsors, DCB Service and InStockTrades.com, May 22nd. That's SummitCityComicCon.com for more information on that convention. The guest list is huge for a small little con that could. It's a nice, intimate con with just a really insane guest list of comic creators. And Wednesday Heroes, actually, our favorite band, is going to be popping up there. I think that's very cool that Wednesday Heroes is going to be there. So, good stuff. And, Jim, we will see everyone next week.
Bye!